What a way to start a SkyTour livestream is with Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven. I think this is very appropriate for tonight. Look at that moon. Look at that moon. I want to welcome Tim F. I want to welcome Lionel, Andy Morrow, and I want to welcome Headband Harvest. How are you guys? Come on in. We're going to have fun tonight. Absolutely. Daryl will be here shortly. Amanda's here now. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, Mark. Hello, all.
It's been a long week for me, let me tell you. But we're going to have some fun tonight. We're going to relax under the stars, even if I have to make them. Mario, how are you? Mario's here.
Speaking of fun nights, did you have any trick-or-treaters at your house last night?
No, we had vicious winds, 50, 60 miles an hour with driving rain. So, yeah. And just for the record, during times like that, the observatory dome usually is damaged. But I have a new system in the dome that prevents the shutters from being ripped off. And it worked. We had a 60 mile an hour gust several times last night. And the dome stayed solid as a rock. So we were really pleased to see that. It was good. Very good, you know. Yeah. Yes, Tim, it's ambient music. This is the Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven. It's perfect for what we're seeing here on the screen. Yeah. Let's just take a picture just to show you what I'm looking at here. Okay, this is, obviously you know what I'm looking at. It's the moon, but it is
purple.
Well, yeah, it just needs to be color corrected, so I'm going to just do that right now. I'll color correct for you so we can get it properly done. Very nice. Here we go. Nicely done. There we go. Hi, Maddie. Yeah, so that's our live moon. I want to actually, not our live moon. This is our live moon shortly. I'll just show you in a minute. I'm just going to first do another color correction here.
Shouldn't it be white?
No, it's sort of a grayish, but it has other colors, believe it or not. There we go. And the live view is here. And for those that aren't familiar, this is the telescope control section. This is me down here. Hello. And sometimes over on the right, I will show you these parameters, which are the photo and camera parameters. I keep them off just to give you more screen real estate to see. And we also have a way to zoom in more on the moon as well, and I like doing that sometimes. So if we head westward a little bit, we can check it out. This telescope is really meant for viewing deep sky objects, so the moon is not always perfect for us to view, but it's kind of cool. So if we take a photo here at 1/6 of a second and go into the view, we will see a lot of detail that shows up on on occasion. All right, so hi Gino, how you doing? I also like the True Color Gino, but we're using special filters that work great for nebulae. As a matter of fact, when the moon is out, we can take some really nice shots even while the moon is out of some faint nebula, because we're very selectively exploring the frequencies of light. And only a few of them are going to be allowed in, and those are the ones that usually are the nebulae colors. So I think that is, that's a pretty good compromise for us. You know.
I messaged Daryl too to say, let me know when you're back and I'll add him.
Okay, thank you.
He was having some computer issues, but he will be with us shortly.
Yeah, he did. He's
add some more intelligence to the conversation.
Well, don't deny yourself your due. You have actually done a really nice job learning in the last year or two. Don't you think?
adding more doesn't diminish my role.
No, not at all. Not at all. I just like that you understand that you've been adding more.
Thank you. I try. I pipe in when I think I know the answer. I try to pipe in, or when I have
Yeah.
what I think is a logical question, I try to pipe in.
Yeah. Gino asks a question, what kind of telescope we use. Gino, look in the lower right corner. Here it is right here. This is a view inside the observatory live, and it shows you the telescope. It's a 10-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain. We do not have the 5-inch Richfield refractor mounted on it tonight, but it usually goes in those circles up there, those brackets. And it allows us to capture some really nice deep sky objects at a wider field of view. Now we're running at f6.3 in the telescope, so it's faster. It is a dome, as you can see, round dome. This is the actual, this thing over here on the right, that black disc is actually the cover for the telescope. When we automate the observatory fully in Arizona, it's in Connecticut right now, but when we automate it fully, we are going to have an automated cover that's going to open and close automatically on the telescope to allow us to then bring the telescope online, because it's going to all be remote. I tested yesterday. I tested a remote system to start up the telescope, and it worked great. It worked really good.
Cool.
Yeah. It gave power to the pier, which is a central pier here, and all the electronics. Oh, look at that jet! Holy cow! Look what we're capturing right there. Did you see that?
No, let me see.
Oh,
we go to the YouTube stream.
Yeah, and we might even see a little bit of a lunar wave there. We actually caught a jet heading away from us, going in front of the moon. Now that's a cool little capture. Check it out. Oh, Gino, it's a Meade. It's a Meade LX200 GPS. Sorry I didn't finish.
Ooh.
Did you see that?
Cool. I'm watching it right now.
Yeah, you might want to make note of that time.
Very cool.
So we can put it.
I don't see a time.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Where?
It's up on top of our screen.
Oh, but it's. Oh, hold on. I have to maximize it to see it. Okay, it was about 2018.
Wow. Yeah, so folks, at 2018, a passenger jet was heading away from us and right in front of the moon from our point of view. Now that's pretty cool. And if you want to see what angle it was sort of on a bank angle like this. Okay, now why was it on a bank angle like that? Here's why. I'll show you. Because the moon is actually pretty low to the ground. See, it's pretty low to the horizon. So a plane's going to be on a bank angle that's just like you expect. So that's what that bank angle was. It's on the bank angle that you would expect for a moon that's low on the ground. So it's on an angle like this. Just pretty cool. Tim F saw it. That's good. Yeah. Oh, you're watching it on your cell phone, Gino. That's pretty cool. Mind you, it is a 1080p stream. You can watch it in HD. We do take 4K videos that we will put up when we actually have something cool. And you might say, well, why didn't you turn on the 4K video when the plane went by? Well, because we are streaming already, and it's already been captured. So we caught it at 1080p. I think that's pretty cool. And the nice thing about the moon heading down is we stand a chance to have jets enter the moon far more for a more length of time, because it's projected. It's a projection, so the jet is going to be foreshortened against the moon. Really, really cool. That was neat. That was cool. Kind of brings me back to when we saw the meteor hit the moon. Remember that? During the eclipse?
I wasn't there that night.
No, you weren't, but it was still, you were there in spirit, so.
Yes, of course.
So now, if I were to increase now the exposure here, watch what we do. All right, now. So now I've increased the exposure, and I'm at 50 ASA right now, by the way, and as you can see here, I'm at 50 ASA, but I'm going to increase that. I'm going to change it. And now you can see there's a tree branch starting to interfere here. I don't know, it's right. There it is. It comes down into the view every now and then.
Yeah.
It's not a spider, it's not an insect. You can see them, there's tree branches.
Yeah, I see them over there. All right.
Yeah. And if you notice the tree branches and look at the moon, you'll notice that the moon is heading toward those tree branches little by little. Kind of cool. Okay, Daryl wants you to try him.
Okay.
Yeah, you saw the meteor hit the moon, Tim. So the moon is low to the horizon, as we saw. And so if you notice, you'll see there's tree branches now that are interfering here. And you can actually get an idea of how much the Earth actually moves by watching.
Hello.
Hey, Daryl.
Hi.
I'm glad you got your problem sorted out for the moment.
Hopefully I did, yeah.
Yeah, as you can see.
Hi, Amanda. Hi, Mark.
Hey there.
Hi.
The screen is shared, Daryl, so you can actually see that the moon is low, and we've got tree branches that are about to eclipse the moon.
Cool, I see that.
Yeah. And
You just missed a jet.
yeah, a jet flew across the face of the moon, and we had it actually. The moon was actually pretty normally exposed, and that jet was perfectly focused going across the face of the moon. It was really pretty.
Super.
And it was
I love it when that
foreshortened. Yeah, it was foreshortened, so it kind of went for a while, and it was really nice. And then we got to see our own lunar wave, a little bit of a lunar wave, as the hot exhaust of the jet disrupted the light.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like that tree branch is going to get you here any second now.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Hey, Bingus, how's it going?
See if this thing is working. I'm going to try to get to the YouTube page.
Yeah.
Just say hi to everybody. I wouldn't be surprised if this fails again. My internet service has been pretty hinky lately.
Oh, sorry.
Mostly, well, it's not your fault.
Gino's
Is it?
in Quebec, and Amanda is in Nova Scotia. Gino, so she's not that far.
I was born in Toronto.
I was only a few miles from Toronto, believe it or not, in the last several days.
Cool.
Yeah. Look at that. Here we go.
Niagara Falls, I bet.
Yeah, that's true. We're doing 3D footage for our Nikola Tesla movie that we're working on. So it's really nice. Yeah, and we have some footage from the top of the falls. Oh, I mean, the bottom drops out in your stomach when you see you're going over the falls, and it's just like wow. And it goes down several hundred feet. It's like, holy cow, this is just amazing. See? So this is...
I was east of the Toronto area for a week for some factory training back in 1988.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how close I was to Niagara Falls. I would have gone and seen it.
Wow.
Always felt bad about it.
I can tell you, it's really something to see. Really something to see. You know, we had, of course, we had special access. We were getting access to areas where the public doesn't get to go typically. We were on walkways that were missing some planks. The end railings had been blown away by high water at one point. The falls had just had a torrential uprise in the currents from heavy rains previously, so a lot of it was shut off, and not shut off, but closed off. You couldn't go there. But they had some walkways available, especially down under the falls. But that's where we were. We were walking down with 3D camera set up and everything down there. It was like 100 pounds of equipment carrying around, and actually Rick was carrying it around. He's the photographer. And we shot some beautiful 4K 120 frame per frame per second video in 3D. Really, really nice.
Is there a working title for the film?
Right now it's called Imagination, but we're actually changing that, and I gave Doug a few ideas on the way back from Buffalo yesterday, and he likes 2 of my ideas. So we might name the film something else. And but the working title is Imagination, and I don't think that certainly that's not going to stick. But Nikola Tesla was an amazing guy, and at Niagara Falls, there's a 20-foot statue of Nikola Tesla there. And we're only hop, skip, and a jump from Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you on the state side?
Yeah, we're on the United States side. I did bring my passport just in case. Let's see what we've got for trees. There we go. We're going into the trees. Look at that. As you can see, we're heading into the trees with the moon now.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So the moon is going to be setting, and it'll be all said and done for the moon. And then what we'll do is we're going to move on to some of the other cool things in the sky.
Gina wants to know if you've ever seen Saturn in daylight.
No, I haven't seen Saturn in the daylight, but would you like to see it in the nightlight? I can bring that up too right now.
I was hoping you'd say that.
We're going to say goodbye to the moon right now. As you can see, the bottom of the moon is starting to suffer
Good night, moon.
the effects of the thick atmosphere. We're seeing it through here. Okay. And right above it is Saturn. Okay. And Jupiter has already set, so we can't look at that. But let's just go to the moon. I'm sorry, Saturn. And here we go. Wing, and off we go into the wild blue yonder. Oh, there it is. That little tiny speck right there. That's our Saturn. Let's take this and say it's good, and let's just move it up a little bit and go a little west. Let's take a look here.
Stars and planets of summer are slipping away, folks.
Yeah, they are. Alright, this is 250th of a second. I can show you that by looking over here. You can see over here on the right side in the camera section here. I've kind of slipped the screen a little bit to the right for you guys so you can see what's going on. Alright, and we're at 250 ISO, and I'm going to go down to 50. And now you'll see that Saturn's all but gone. So I'm just going to increase the exposure a little bit, and now you'll see Saturn's coming back. And we're going to pick the one that's just about right. Now Saturn's going to be pretty murky, so let's try it. 0.7 seconds in the murk. What do we got? Let's see. Yeah. Earlier tonight when it was higher in the sky, you didn't see any of this chromatic aberration. You actually saw the rings very clearly. And you can make out Cassini's division, which was a line that goes in the rings. It sort of splits the rings down the middle a little bit. Really cool. And Cassini's division is a well-known division within the rings.
Bingus said they heard that the rings are fragmenting. Is that true?
Actually, Saturn's rings are indeed going to be gone in another couple of million years. That's because they are sort of evaporating. They're actually they have a life cycle. They're actually going to migrate into Saturn's atmosphere over time. And
Don't Uranus and Neptune have rings too? Is
Yes.
that happening with them?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about that, research at all. And I don't know if it will happen to them. It may.
Their rings are very dark and faint in the first place.
Yes, and they're more
and
distant from the
they're
planet.
much more tenuous than Saturn's rings are.
Yeah.
They'll probably evaporate before Saturn's does.
Well, if they're evaporating,
You might say that Saturn's rings have been fragmenting for millions of years.
well, they have. Who knows what it looked
Sure.
like? 10 million years ago.
Yeah, that's why they're rings.
Yeah.
Do you think Earth ever had any?
I do actually, and I'll tell you why. When we were struck by that Mars-sized body that split our planet, and the blob that came off and all the debris that came off eventually coalesced into the moon. But before that, there had to be a period of time, perhaps several million years, in our very, very early history, where the Earth had rings orbiting it, in the same way that Saturn has rings, but the particles around the Earth were of debris from the impactor, the thing that struck the Earth, and pieces of the Earth. This explains, or it partially explains, why the moon has a composition that's very similar to the Earth. But it doesn't really fit all the theories, because of the fact that the impactor that struck the Earth wasn't like the Earth in all likelihood. So how come we don't see anything other than Earth composition in all of the moon samples we've ever collected? Shouldn't we see the impactor? Something different, something new? Well, we don't. And that's kind of a mystery. That's a mystery we don't know how to deal with at the moment. I'm sure you've heard of that, Daryl.
Mark, you're breaking up really badly for me. I'm sure this problem is on my end still. I may drop out here. If I do, I'll try to get back as soon as I can.
Okay. Amanda, you hear me okay?
I heard you, yeah.
Okay. So, it may be your end, Daryl.
Yes. Yeah.
Too bad.
That stinks.
Time to talk to Steve in India, tech support.
Ay, ay, ay.
Tim wants to know, do we know what area of the Earth it was hit?
No, we don't, Tim. Because when it struck the Earth, it likely made the entire planet molten again. And blasted off a huge chunk of the planet. And that became the moon eventually. But that would be cool. I mean, just, and your question is actually a valid one, because you would think, well, hey, we know where the Chicxulub impact hit that wiped out the dinosaurs, just north of the Yucatan. So, how big was this impact that struck the Earth? The answer is, it was about the size of Mars. It was an object the size of Mars. So, just imagine that. There was a collision between something the size of Mars and our planet. Wow, I would not want to be under that.
And Mars is about half the diameter of Earth.
Yeah.
Some say, too, that Earth's axial tilt is due to that impact. That 23.5 degree tilt you see on globes on their stands.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting how these impacts have a way of dynamically changing the way that a planet spins. I mean, look at Uranus. Uranus is a real, odd duck in our solar system, isn't it, Daryl?
It is. It's tilted over halfway over. Its pole is actually pointed toward the sun and actually tilted a little bit past the plane of its orbit around the sun.
That's right.
Then knocked on its side, more or less.
Yeah, that's right.
Something big hit Uranus.
Oh, I know it. And we don't even know what that was. I suspect that when we go, it's a beautiful night, and with the moon setting, we should be able to see other things here. I'm going to check out the Veil supernova remnant right now, but I don't think the dome is properly placed to see it. But we're going to go here anyway, and then move the dome to get there, because we're going to be moving around the sky anyway. So let's move the telescope. And let's watch it move. Well, that's interesting. It's actually partially in the view. I didn't expect that at all. So I'm going to increase the view here, the ISO, and we should see stars, and we do. And I'll go up to 25,600, and I'll increase our shot to 20 seconds. What do you say? Sound good? Is that right?
Sounds good.
Why not?
Is that right? Close the door. Okay, now let's do it. Let's see if we got it. Hey, DDB. Carol, hey, how are you? Carol Carl is here. Carol, you would appreciate this. We actually, when we opened up tonight, we started by looking at the moon. And when we looked at the moon, we had Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven playing. So it was really kind of nice. Okay, we got a little issue there, but let's see if we've got the... Yeah, look at that. We got a piece of the veil up there. No, Tim, I hope nothing large hits us again. That's true. Wouldn't be good for us if it did. All right, let's move ourselves back this way.
Hey,
Yeah.
Chicxulub happens, you know.
That's good.
Gee, I just thought of that.
That's a good one there.
Chicxulub happens. That's pretty good.
It is good.
That reminds me, I watched that Nova show Wednesday night about the Corral Bluffs paleontological find here.
Yeah, remind folks.
It was okay. I don't know what to say. Nova, everybody, they try to jazz it up too much, and I could say more, but it would get political, so I'm not going to go there. But it was interesting, and it was a really cool look at the landscape, and you did, I guess I'd recommend people to watch it once.
Okay.
And you can see that's my home there, just to the west of where those rocks are. And you can see Pikes Peak over on the horizon.
Very cool.
The big old mountain just west of town. A lot of pretty scenery shown in the film.
Very cool.
It's interesting, and like they promised, and like I talked about last weekend, the early programs I saw about it, articles that, I mean, you know, here Chicxulub hit and killed the dinosaurs, and within 300,000 years, there were mammals running around everywhere. They were about the size of a raccoon,
That's
about
right.
a pound or less, and 300 years later, they were the size of small pigs, and 700,000 years later, they were 100-pound animals running around everywhere.
That's right.
And the lizards, the leftovers of the dinosaurs, I guess, you know, well, they were the little bitty ones scurrying around, hiding under rocks and stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
It was interesting.
well, you know, we turned out exactly as we turned out because of the circuitous, crazy path that all these 5 major extinction events here caused. And so we are what we are based on that. This is the Veil supernova remnant. This is the eastern veil. Or is it the... Am I right on that? Eastern veil? What am I thinking here?
Western Veil.
Western veil. Thank you. I don't know why I'm looking at that wrong. Yeah. So, this is what we're looking at. We're right here. And, of course, that is indeed the Western veil. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What?
Oh, I had to say something in chat.
Chicxulub happens?
Chicxulub, that would make a good bumper sticker.
It does.
Teaser.
It does
Hey.
happen. And it did happen. You're absolutely
I'll
right.
be rich. Rich.
Nah, but
You
you'll
know,
always
rich
be
than ever.
Daryl to us.
Well, I'll send you a postcard.
Yeah. Very cool. So let's see here. Let's drop down here and look at some other element here of the veil. I'm trying to get an idea, guys, of how good the night looks. And by the way, did you just see some blinker, a little blinky thing that just occurred right there? You know, we often see these little things that just flash. Really interesting. This music is actually some spy music, just so you know. sort of a play on some spy music. Okay. Oh yeah, look at that. Down here, this bottom part of the veil here is gorgeous. And Daryl, and to all of you listening, we're using a filter that's sort of like a narrow band filter. Hi, James Dugan, by the way. And so we only let in certain amounts of light, which is why we can take photos of nebulae when we have a full moon. And I've done this nebula right here during a full moon, and it actually looks pretty good. It's not a full moon now; the moon is just set. But this area here, this is O3. This is doubly ionized oxygen here, and the doubly ionized oxygen has this characteristic blue color, and the red part is both neon and hydrogen alpha, usually hydrogen alpha. And the supernova extended out from a central point, which is right here. Okay, it started out in the middle of all this and blew outward, boom. Okay, and as it moves through the interstellar medium, it initially moved kind of homogeneously, kind of all the same way all around. But as it hit other areas of different densities in the interstellar medium itself, with that different density, broke the shell of the expanding supernova up into these little pieces. So we're looking at one of the pieces here. We're actually kind of down here now, looking at this. And that's what this is right here. All right. And so we're at the bottom of it right here. And now if we go back to our view here, what we can do is we can go over to this other side. All right, this is the eastern veil, and we're going to start out here and then go down more. But this is another side entirely. It's several light years away from this side, but it's very much so a tremendous, beautiful, wispy nebular remnant.
This side is called the Witch's Broom.
That's right. And this is a star called 52 Cygni right here. And it's the brightest star. It just happens to be in the area. It has nothing to do with the nebula. It didn't make the nebula. Wasn't made from the nebula. But let's go bring it down a little bit like this so we can have it down near the bottom. So we're going to see the long, spindly nature of this thing. You don't see it here, but we're going to do a 20-second exposure, and I'm actually going to go up to 32,000 and take this exposure now. And we're going to do 20 seconds at 32,000. I've been building a 3D camera rig for Doug to use to do some additional footage for the Tesla movie. And I'm noting that they're Nikons, and they go to 32,000 ISO. And I have to figure out what their oops, I'm interfering with the dome. I have to figure out what their actually run in terms of the megapixels. Gosh, look at that, huh? It sort of looks like a piece of art, doesn't it? It's like an artistic piece. But you can see this beautiful, spectacular looking highlight over here. Wow.
Kind of reminds me of a tornado.
I guess it does, doesn't it?
The twister part.
Yeah. Yeah. Amanda, this looks like a piece of art to you, Amanda?
I see the twister in it. I guess it could be a piece of art.
Yeah, a little green, little blue, little purple.
Most pieces of the sky look like pieces of art.
Yeah. I have to go move the dome a little bit, though, okay?
Okay.
I'll make it quick. So you and Daryl take over. I'll be back. And I won't eavesdrop, listen in on the call, but I'll be right back.
Oops, I'm not unmuted, am I?
Nope.
Okay, sorry. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. name that movie, Amanda?
Wizard of Oz?
Yeah.
Come on, that's an easy one.
I'm sorry. I was making.
I shouldn't have said anything, and I should have left her for Chad. I bet they would have got it too. So, the Daryl and Amanda show. Now we got to perform.
Ta-da. Anyway, I was grabbing a bite of something after dinner, and I forgot to mute. Okay, what? I'm sorry.
Where is he moving the dome to? Do you know what the next object he's aiming for is? Based on where he's moving it to?
Well, from looking at that image, I would gather the edge of the dome is compromising the view somewhat. That's why it's red on the right side, because this dome is illuminated red inside.
Yeah.
And we often see this effect when the edge of the dome shutter is sort of cutting into the view. So he's probably moving it over to where it's on a better center, or he might have in mind, a happy compromise in the dome position between this and whatever he's planning on going to next.
Or he might just be looking at the veils better. That's what you're thinking. Get the dome out of there. Take better pictures of this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You betcha.
Now I see Vega. Don't let me forget to ask him.
What do you need?
I want to see Vega. After we're done here.
Oh, you want to see Vega?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Let's go back and take a picture like I meant to of this. I went outside and there was a skunk, so I had to kind of just avoid him.
Yeah. Maybe he's great-great-great-grandson Skunky.
Yeah.
What was his name? It wasn't Skunky, was it?
Yeah, I called him Skunky.
Was it Skunky?
I called the blue jay Jay. I called the fox Fox. Foxy Fox. I mean. And for those listening who don't know,
I call most raccoons Rocky, so I'm not very
cool.
creative there.
There we go. Look at that. Little soft. We got a little motion there in the stars, so do that again. For those that don't know, I've had some weird experiences with some animals that have kind of, I don't know why, but I was able to make friends with a skunk. He walked right into my garage while I was working in there, and he stuck around for probably 2 weeks. Followed me around everywhere I went in the garage. Hung out with me. I even scratched his back and his belly when he lay down. He was like a little cat. So we got 20 seconds here.
Skunks are one of those things I want to see from a respectful distance, like an avalanche or a tornado, We had one here in the neighborhood. He acted like he owned the place, and I guess he did. He'd go marching right down the middle of the street after dark, and well, he acted like he had a chip on his shoulder, or he just didn't give a darn one or the other.
And?
Give him a wide berth. Well, I gave him a wide berth.
Okay.
I didn't try to shake hands with him or anything.
I had no choice.
Negative experiences with skunk.
First time I met him, he walked into my shop and came up to my feet while I was sanding a 6-foot submarine model for the Navy. I didn't want to leave the sub behind, and he was just in my doorway, and then he came in, and I tried to just be cautious. Now, of course, I was nervous, but he ended up not doing anything. He actually kind of liked it there, and we ended up becoming friends. So my mother.
I have tons of raccoons that would have loved to come in the house, but I think they'd be too destructive accidentally.
Oh no, you're right. You had that wonderful raccoon family. It looked like outside your door. I saw those pictures.
I've had generations and generations of. I think they hang out under my deck.
That's probably true.
And they dream of peanut butter sandwiches.
You betcha. And I'll tell you this, we're taking a photo now of the lower part of that western veil. I'll tell you this, we're actually we're actually very lucky that the skunks haven't decided to go on the attack around here, because there's plenty of them. This will go up now. Oh, look at that, Daryl. This is the bottom. Yeah, we got a little more. Very, 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 very tenuous material down here. That's really pretty. Wow.
I'm sure that'd really jump out if you stacked a few exposures of it.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure. And if I want to take a look here, I'm going to play with the colors a little bit and the contrast a little bit. Alright, you can see some more detail there. It's pretty cool. Very, very nice. So, a little more detail. Looks like that. Really cool. And if we do
Where you're going, you won't have to worry about skunks and raccoons. You'll just have to worry about rattlesnakes and scorpions.
Yeah. I took some nice pictures of scorpions last time I was there. Actually got
This is the Western Veil still, right?
Yes, it is.
This is the Eastern Veil.
Eastern Veil, sorry. Hey, Jacob. Nice to see you here. MK, good to see you. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. This is a supernova remnant. I'm leaving for Arizona next week. I'll be there till the 18th. And I'll figure out what to do with SkyTour radio, too, because I'm not going to have Wi-Fi in the desert.
Yeah, maybe we should do a pre-record or two.
Yeah, if I have time. I'm trying to make that happen. But I also got a call from the show Ancient Aliens, and they want me to come out as early as Tuesday to Los Angeles from Connecticut to go do an episode out there. But it may or may not happen in time. I may have to go back, in other words. But
good luck. I hope it works out.
no, me too. It's okay. You know, they're good folks. You know, and the show's been on for 13 years. It's got a huge following. So they're really cool. All right, so now we're down the bottom here of that, and let's go to our planetarium shot here.
Maybe you should get a new haircut, Mark. Try to compete with that crazy-haired guy who's on.
Giorgio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Giorgio is Giorgio. Let me see here now. Let me.
You know you want to.
You know you want to. Yeah, this is what Amanda wants to see. She asked to see Vega. So let's see if we can give her Vega.
I think everyone will be in for a treat with Vega.
You think so? Alright, then let's try it.
It's lovely.
Yes, so here
I mean,
we
it's
go.
no cat's eye nebula or anything, but it's beautiful.
Well, hey, if we're at Vega, we're going to have to go see the ring, too.
That's correct.
Well, why would everyone use Vega as a starting point? Starting reference.
Well, it's the brightest star in that area, so. Okay, so now the telescope is pointing down a little bit toward Vega.
And it's pretty.
Yeah, and we're gonna just pull it in. Okay, and alrighty. And then we just pop it back a bit. And let's do, we don't need 32,000 on it. We could just go down to like 10,000 here, actually 8,000. And then we'll drop this down to 15 seconds just to get the background stars in there. And off we go. Yes, sirree. And we'll see it over here. It'll take its place. I'm sorry I'm coughing, by the way. That's a change of seasons thing that happens to me.
Get a humidifier.
Yeah. Probably could. Let's just.
I got a new humidifier. I'm testing it as we speak.
Really?
Yeah, I'm watching that sucker.
Wow.
Want to see how it acts, how long it's going to last.
All right.
Vega was the star. What's her face went to in the movie Contact, wasn't
I'm not sure.
it? I think it was. Vega's fourth brightest star in the sky. Vega's 25 light years away, if I remember correctly.
Correct. Yeah, and there's.
I believe it has a disk around.
I was gonna say we have a little bit of the observatory shutter hitting. That's what that little straight line is right there. Just a tiny bit. Not enough to even get the color issue. But yeah.
I think that's gorgeous.
It is very beautiful. You like bright colors. You like blues and
I
greens.
do.
You know, you really are partial to those, and so we try to please Amanda whenever we can around here. You know?
Aw, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you're always looking for requests. We take requests from the viewers, so.
Yeah. See what
I'm a
Carol.
viewer.
See what Carol Carl says. What happens in Vegas stays in Vega. Bum. Okay, Carol. You guys might
Just
recognize.
trying to rival Daryl with the jokes.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah.
You guys might recognize Carol Carl from KGRA Radio. She's in the chat right now, but she's been with us on the live stream actually the last couple times. I didn't ask her tonight because tonight is Friday night, and at 7 p.m. she had her show, which was wonderful. And so I didn't want to complicate her life on Friday. But she's here now, so it's kind of fun. And she's off in the chat, so it'd be fun if if you wanted to add her, Amanda, you could. I don't know if she wants to join or not.
I know she usually hangs out at her radio Friday nights, but if she wants to join us, Carol, let us know.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I have her on Skype or not.
Oh.
I'll have to check. If not, Carol, it's StannyFan1 on Skype for me. You can add me.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And while we're waiting to see if she wants to do that, let's go back to our planetarium and check out something different, such as, let's see if we can get to the Ring Nebula and not have any problems with the dome. We might not. I don't know. Let's just go, shall we? Yes, we shall. Here we go. I'm gonna buy Sulafat there. And now we don't see much of anything, apparently, right? But, oops, sorry. But we do, actually, because we do have... look at that. See, it's true. Everything's better with Amanda. Here you go. See?
Now she's stealing my lines.
Oh, I don't think
Have
she's
you
stealing
ever
anything.
been on? Oh yes, you've been on with Carol before, Daryl.
Sure.
Yeah.
That'd be
A
fun.
couple of times.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'm gonna see if I have her.
Okay, and meanwhile, while you guys are
Don't-
doing that,
I have her on Facebook. I don't think I have. Oh. Apparently I do. Okay, hold on a second. Let me add her.
okay. So this is 15 seconds at 8,000. Here's the 15 seconds over here, 8,000. And we are trying to get to the Ring Nebula, which is right there. Look at that.
Hi, Carol.
Hello, Amanda. Can you hear me? Oh my gosh.
I do.
We
Oh
hear
my
you.
gosh. How are you?
How's your show tonight?
It was very amazing. It was absolutely, I don't know. It was
Who was your
unstuck.
guest?
My guest was Todd Knurr. Let me spell it and get the visual ready.
Knurr.
Yes. And Todd with 2 D's, Todd. Okay, it just looked okay. And the amazing surrealistic part was that when I first began my broadcasting career at Inception Radio Network, Todd Knurr was part of Paradigm Unhinged, which was an anchor show for that network. And he was so I learned an awful lot listening to him. suffice it to say. So I reached out to him and and asked him to be my guest, and lo and behold, it's all transpired so that he is now, he is a part of the KGRAradio.com broadcasting family. He will take the 6 p.m. slot for an hour that then runs right into mine for Behind the Obsidian Curtain, and that's on Fridays. 7 p.m. Eastern for me, 6 p.m. Eastern for Todd, and it is Unhinged Reality, which is a play on his original show title, which was Paradigm Unhinged. And this time he's going solo, and oh, Amanda, it's gonna, you will love it. It's yeah, I'm just saying that, that this guy has, and he has personal experience in terms of something that happened with his father that was pretty much a full-out alien abduction circa 1956. Okay, wow. Pretty early on. We didn't, have the literature. That there was not the, suggestion, for instance, from all the movies that hadn't happened yet. And this happened to his father. He didn't grow up knowing this. In fact, he went into law enforcement. And so that's part of the draw. Wow. Speaking of draw, what am I looking at? That's incredible.
That's the Ring Nebula. It's a...
I know this one.
Go ahead.
God, yeah.
It's the Ring Nebula.
Yeah, the I was about to say, yeah, we saw that the other night. Oh, yeah. That incredible teal color. Oh, God, that grabs me.
Yeah. That's a
Did you?
favorite
You
Amanda.
just saw Vega, didn't you? How gorgeous was that?
Oh, I did. It's just
right there.
And we take these.
Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's the beauty of this.
Hello,
I can just.
Carol.
Hello,
sorry.
Daryl. How are you?
I'm good. You?
Excellent. Very good. I'm, really concerned. There's fires throughout my state.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And it's, I'm pretty sure that anybody who's trying to watch the skies tonight, starting in Ventura County and going south is going to have a hard time because of the smoke.
Yeah. When I was in Devil's Tower in Wyoming 2 years ago, the fires in North Dakota were so bad that the smoke was raining down ash in northeastern Wyoming, and
Wow.
it was just like it was snowing, but it was all ash.
Oh my God.
Can you spell your guest's last name again, please?
I'm sorry, say that again, Amanda.
Todd's last name?
Oh, Knurr, Knurr. He is he's a former law enforcement officer who did all kinds of things in terms of handling homeland security, and you name it, all kinds of detective sort of situations, and trained observer, savvy kind of person, all of that. And he is back on the air after like a at least 3 year hiatus. So it's an incredible thing for KGRA to be able to have captured him, shall we say. It's really neat, and it's something that he loves to do. So everybody, it's a win-win. His fan base, is still definitely out there.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Wow, look at this.
Put your little screen back on, Mark. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm
People
taking.
want to know where you are.
Oh, I'm taking a photo.
You're actually inside now. He used to actually physically be outside in the dome, controlling everything from in there on his laptop and freezing to death in his thermal underwear and socks and the sacrifice he made for us, and still is always, one more shot, one more thing. One more object.
Yeah, such a sacrifice. That is heartwarming.
It just got to the point
it's
where
almost fully automated now, so
it is actually. I didn't automate the dome itself because the dome itself is going to be changed over to a shed with a rolling roof that rolls right off the building.
Yes, right.
And that's going to make things a lot easier and better.
And that is designed by Kat Thorvaldsen, yes?
No, she's she wants to help, but she's not going to be able to realistically be able to help, unfortunately, because She's in Norway, but she is a carpenter. She gave me some great ideas, though. She has some great ideas.
Right. You said she was a world-class carpenter.
She is, as a she's worked with men all her life, so it's kind of interesting. She's sick today, unfortunately, because as you know, we do the New Sciences tour together.
Right.
So we didn't get to talk today because she was sick, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm
She
sorry
was
to hear
doing
that.
chimney sweep work a week or two ago,
Right,
wasn't
Yes,
she?
you sure
On
was.
Facebook.
Oh no, is that something to do with why she's not feeling well?
I
No,
hope not.
no. She's just she's actually it's very funny because she just believes in getting things done herself. She's
Yes,
Good
right.
for her.
gonna go for it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So that's good for her. I'm glad that she does that.
Definitely. She's going to be my guest behind the Obsidian Curtain on December 20th. I can't
Very
wait.
nice. Oh,
Yes,
you locked it
indeed.
in. So glad
Yes,
you
I
Yeah.
did.
Right.
And thank you so much, Amanda, because that was all, that was driven by you in terms of you giving me the link, etc. And so
Well,
I can't wait for that. It's going to be great.
it seemed like a logical fit. If I didn't say it, someone else would have suggested it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, you are so humble, but yes, and that occurred that night, the night of the long stream, the long live stream, the journey home from JFK airport, right, with Bill and Ma, and and Mark arriving safely. Yes.
Yes, I got back safely thanks to Bill and Ma.
Yeah, it was really.
That's right.
so
They were very
amazing.
kind to come get me.
Yeah.
Bill has
And
a
a JFK.
huge heart.
Oh my God.
I know.
Oh yeah. Right.
Bill doesn't make that sacrifice for just anyone,
Well,
I know.
and all these, I remember these hysterical moments when Bill would be reading his cell phone, and from the cell from, of course, how appropriate, the cell phone parking lot at JFK,
Yes.
and he would be reading something from you, Amanda. He would say, "Oh, Amanda is saying, Mark, look at your phone, read your phone, read your phone." Right? And it was so, yeah, they were. What was the thing, Mark? I think you were like, you were, once the plane landed, after all the stuff that went on regarding the plane and which plane you ultimately flew on and
Yeah.
landed on, and then after it landed, you were like on the runway for a long time, right? Is that what I recall?
Yeah, I see. The
I
A3,
remember that now.
the
Yeah, okay.
A380,
On the runway for a long time.
Yeah.
the A380 aircraft, double-decker aircraft. It's huge, and it can't just land anywhere. And there's been planes that have almost crashed by taking off after it.
Oh,
And so this beautiful M56 globular cluster right here. Look at that.
oh my God. Look at that.
Yeah, every star you see here is way in the foreground, and M56 is much farther away. These are halo objects that kind of orbit our whole galaxy. We have dozens and dozens of these globular clusters, and we see them in other galaxies too. We can actually see them from here in this telescope in other galaxies, so it's kind of cool. But the A380 is a very, very big plane, and it really displaces a lot of air. So when it takes off, it drags a lot of air behind it, and has a lot of thrust. And so when another aircraft takes off, it has to be really careful, because there's been cases where the planes taken off behind it enter an area where there's very little lift, because the air is rushing along very quickly behind the aircraft. And I think one plane actually crashed taking off behind an A380, as a matter of fact. It stalled out, fell to its right, and crashed. Unfortunately, everybody died. And
Oh my God.
that's why the A380 tends to be isolated. It lands on a separate runway if they have it. It lands far away. And if it's going to take off, it has to literally, you're not going to be in the middle of a pack of planes behind an A380. You're going to be either the first or the last in the line. And we had to wait when we were taking off from Oslo Gardermoen Airport. We were like 32nd in line, which means at the end of the line.
Whoa.
Because they didn't want to have any other planes taking off behind us. And hey, that's good. If I was in that plane behind someone like that, I'd be like, okay, I'm really not too excited about this, So that's really a good thing. Very good thing.
Oh.
that they do by making sure that they don't take off while there's other planes. So
Speaking of tricky plane landings,
Yeah.
I just saw that documentary, A Come From Away story. It was about all the planes that had to land in Gander, Newfoundland after 9/11.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That was a wicked documentary. It was really, really well done.
That's because nobody knew what was happening at the time. They didn't know exactly what was going on, and every plane had to land
Yeah.
in Gander. Yeah, that was Gander, where everyone had to go. Yeah, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful,
Oh
beautiful.
my God, look at that.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty sight. Yeah, and let's see now. I know that we can wind our way up. I've tried to look at this before. I don't remember if we could see it. It's a protoplanetary nebula. It's really very, very faint. So it's not a planetary nebula per se. A protoplanetary nebula. That means that it's a nebula surrounding a star that has debris around it, disk around it, protoplanetary disk kind of a thing. Not sure if it's going to be visible. Hey W, hey Bobby Burgess. See, Bobby, you joined just in time, see, because now we have some stuff we're going to look at. You know, last time he joined, said, hey, how's it all going? And then we said, okay, well, good night.
Yeah, right. Hello, Bobby Burgess. Yes, indeed. Okay.
Yeah.
Soon to be my Facebook friend.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So we're doing 10
So no-
seconds
so-
at 32,000 here, just so you know.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. And that'll tell us a little more about the object we're looking at. So here it comes. Let's see if we can catch any hint. I do not see any hint. This modeling you see that goes away, that's the noise elimination algorithm that I'm running in the background that on all the photos, so it cleans them up instantly. So you get to see the beauty of the image. So like if we go to here, right, and then back to here, you can see those little squares.
Yeah. Right.
It's cleaning up the data for us. Okay, that's pretty. I don't see a protoplanetary disk, of course, and I didn't really expect to. I'd have to see it on a chart to know exactly where it is, what it is, and then we could zoom in on it and check it out, kind of a thing. But I mean, I see there is a nebula here, but it's really kind of hard to see.
Would it be a disc because of the name it bears? Would it be a disc-shaped thing, or is that too easy?
No, it's not this too easy. You would expect that it might be, but in fact, it's not a disc shape because, well, I don't know why.
Mark, can you go back to your last image for a second, please?
This is the last image, M56.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's what I thought I saw something fuzzy to the lower left of that foreground star.
Oh, I mean this here? This is the one we just had there.
Yeah. I guess not. I thought I saw something fuzzy there for a second.
You know,
Never mind.
Let me isolate it for you and see. You might have been talking about maybe down here.
Not that far down. Just
Okay.
a little to the... whatever it was, I don't see it now. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. You're more than able to chime in whenever you want, Daryl. There's no limitations on Daryl Mason.
Yay!
That's right. We're not limiting Daryl. Why would we? Now we're going to look at this little guy. This is one that's kind of fun. We looked at this before. It is actually another ring nebula. And the telescope is moving toward it, as you can see. And let's go here and get in. We see stars moving here. We're pulling into our new parking space in space. Okay, so let's go over here and then pop back. All right, 10 seconds at 32,000. Visible here. We're taking the picture now. Yep. Hey Daisy and Zoe, how are you guys? Thanks for coming out. Stacy, I think, is here too. Thank you for coming. So happy to see all of you guys here. And there it is. Look at that. The little ring neb. So this is different from M57, our little ring nebula that we know. But if you notice, remember how I've said to you before, the ring nebula looks like the ring nebula almost everywhere you look at it from? Amanda knows this. We talked about this. In fact, she finally understands why that's true. Because when we're looking at it,
But that's just your theory. You don't know that for a fact. It's not confirmed.
that is correct. But I do believe that it is a theory that is worth the paper it's printed on, because the material that's closest to you and farthest from you, that is the stuff in the front and the back, is the thinnest relative to your line of sight, and it gradually gets thicker near the edges. And if you were to rub your hand on a ball, on the front of the ball facing you, you see in between your fingers. When you move your hand around the side of the ball, then you can't see through your fingers because they're edge on to you. So that's essentially looking at the edge of this ring nebula here. Okay, and then as you get around the other side toward the back, you again your hand is now facing your face again, and you get to see between your fingers again, and likewise all around. And thus, from anywhere you are in the universe, my feeling is that when you look at a ring nebula like this, an expanding sphere around a star, from a dying star, it's going to look like a ring, no matter where you look at it from. That is my theory, and what it is too. Him. Remember Ann Elk? Maybe not. So anyway,
with the great diversity of shapes we see in planetary nebula, I know it's supposition just as much as what you're saying, Mark, but some say when we see a smoke ring like that, we may be looking at more of a cylinder or
barrel,
a cylinder or barrel shape, kind of looking at it head on. That's just another theory.
Oh, I just think that it's another theory, but I don't doubt that any of it is possible. Because, the more we think we know about the universe, the more it throws us curves that show us we don't know anything at all. Okay, to be honest. Okay, let's look at it again. I went for a little longer to try and pull out some of the color. Okay, now, look at this. See? It looks just like a little ring, doesn't it? That's really pretty. It's pretty amazing. And that's the kind of thing that I think that's just beautiful. Let's look at it like this. Wow.
Question for either Mark or Daryl, unless Carol knows anything about telescopes. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no,
Sure.
I will pass, my dear.
Oh, is this the one from Jacob? I think I just saw.
From Jacob, yes.
Oh, yeah, he says you inspired me to get a telescope. I'm humbled. This is great, Jacob.
No, wait, after that, he said, "How much is a good telescope if I'm an amateur and just want to see stuff within an expensive setup?"
Okay.
$100.
Yeah.
I don't know where you are, Jacob. Look for a 6-inch to an 8-inch Dobsonian. That is a good starter instrument. Give you the most bang for the buck.
But I think you should get one with go-to capability too, so that you don't have to know where everything is in the sky. You can just align it like they tell you in the manual, and then you'll be able to tell it to go to these different objects, and you can just see them in your eyepiece. Those are really cool.
Well, yeah, but he said without an expensive setup, and go-to will always raise the price.
Yeah,
Uh,
but there are some
I mean,
competing. There are some competitive pricing out there for go-tos, I think.
I'm gonna guess it
Near
might be something.
Toronto.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, so
No,
Canadian
go ahead.
prices, Daryl.
Ah,
I'm sorry.
Canadian prices, he's near Toronto. You asked where he
Oh.
was?
Yeah, okay. You could get into a 6 or 8 inch you could get an 8 inch Dobsonian for $400, and you're not going to get go-to for that. The one caveat with the Dobsonian is, though, you have to point the telescope yourself, and you have to know what you're looking at. Or you can go with a go-to system, but that does start adding to the price.
Well, there are Dobsonians that are go-tos.
This is true. Their
Orion makes one.
functionality might be questionable.
Orion makes one. You know?
Yeah.
And in fact, our esteemed producer on KGRA, Bill, New York Skywatcher, he has a Dobsonian with go-to capability, an 8-inch.
cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have one as well, but it doesn't have go-to. It's just a straightforward one, Daryl. So that if you think that I don't know how to align or look at things myself, I actually do. But
Oh, I'm sure. I know you and I go way back on scopes,
I'm
man.
afraid so. Yeah. All right, now
Yeah,
I'm gonna do.
Amanda, is there a test? Can we give them a test?
I wouldn't even know where to start. That's how limited my knowledge is.
Yeah, well, listen, I couldn't put a test together, but no, I
You
was
could
just
try.
I was thinking, in terms of it's just sort of it's a depending on where you start sort of perspective, right? Yeah.
Well, when I saw he was in Toronto, I was thinking light pollution.
Right.
Oh,
Depending on
yeah,
how far
yeah,
inside of the
yeah.
city he is, like, is it even worth it to get
Right.
a
Right.
telescope that's close to the city?
Oh, sure it is. Get the telescope, get a couple of extra eyepieces. Jacob, I see you say under 500. Look for the 6 or 8 inch Dob. Get a couple of extra eyepieces and/or get a Barlow lens. It'll be a purely visual telescope, but that will get you years down the road for your budget.
But don't hesitate to look for the possibility of a go-to telescope and see what they cost relative to what you're going to spend for a regular telescope.
Yeah.
Yeah, compare them for sure.
He says under
It's
500,
worth the investment.
so that's limiting what he can do.
And is it possible that it's the kind of thing that sometimes people will invest in on a whim and then say, I don't have I've got so much light pollution, this isn't feasible for me, and then put it up for sale on eBay? Is it possible there might be some a cheaper way to get it by getting it pre-owned?
Sure. Craigslist, eBay,
Yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that. It may be a pig in a poke if you don't do it locally.
Right.
But, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and one rule of thumb to stick with is great telescopes. Large telescopes are great. They give you a lot of light grasp. You can see dimmer, fainter objects, or you see brighter objects in greater detail. But a smaller telescope that is easy to move and use is a lot better than a great big telescope that is a hard time to set up, and you'll wind up leaving it in the garage.
Well,
Yeah.
that might be the 8-inch Dob.
8 inch Dob in there.
Well, he has to bring out the base first, then bring out the telescope if he's going to do that. The 6-inch, not so much. But you can also, for not that much more than 500, you can actually get a small Celestron go-to, which you can carry out under your arm, and it's like the C90, or is it actually the one that's like almost 6 inches in diameter? I can't remember which one it was. You remember
Do
that?
they even make? Not offhand. I know what you're talking about. You're probably talking about a 5 or 6 inch. Schmidt-Casp, that's what you mean. C5, C6, I think.
Yeah, and
They even still make C6. I'm not sure they even make the C90 anymore.
well, the thing is that I saw one of these just at a star party very recently. And we're taking a picture of the dumbbell, by the way. So if we're not in the way, if the dome's not in the way, this could be a pretty 30 seconds too. It may be a little out of focus, or not out of focus, but we might get some trailing. Let's see what we got. Oh, dome's in the way, and we did get trailing. Yeah. Oh well.
He wants one that he can carry like when he's camping. So maybe we're getting on the right track.
Yeah. So we're off the beaten path for him. Yep. Okay, let me go move the dome because I want to capture the dumbbell.
Hot pink.
One more time.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I shall be right back. Talk amongst yourselves.
Let's
And I'm not going to connect to
How
the
about that?
call. I'm going to leave it here.
Okay, so he can't hear us. Is that correct, Amanda? How about that, Daryl?
That's what he says.
Okay.
I don't know if I believe him.
Can we trust him? That's the thing. It's like, okay, this pivotal exchange of information. I don't know, what would it be? How's the weather back there? How's your weather, Amanda? You're the northernmost of us, I think.
It was windy but really warm. But it seems like a storm's coming. It's supposed to rain this weekend. We'll see.
Yeah. Daryl, what's your weather doing?
It was single digits a couple of nights ago.
Oh my God.
Yesterday was beautiful, mid-40s, sunny, melted most of the snow. Most of the rest of it melted today. Halloween night was really nice last night. It was turned out to be a beautiful, clear day. It snows here, but the sun always comes back a day or two later.
Yeah. Oh, it's strange that the sun is. Yeah.
And now they're saying sunny and mild for the foreseeable future.
Oh, God.
I'll take that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's extremes in so many places. Yeah.
Did you get any kids trick-or-treating last night?
No, it's a funny thing. There are in the two houses. Let's see, there are only two houses across the street from me that face north, and there are small children in both of them. They had like parties kind of thing, and I did hear some stuff out on the street. We're a couple of blocks from the Claremont College's combined campuses, and so I heard definitely some older people, and it was so funny because here are these guys, and I'm hearing I really liked Halloween. I'm hearing that from them, and this is like perhaps their first time away from home, their first Halloween away from home, and there was sort of this, oh God, kind of bittersweet sort of feeling to it. But I was noting that I didn't hear any of the children who were, and they would have been half a block away from us on the streets that run north and south. I didn't hear any trick or treat. I didn't hear that at all. I could hear children in the distance, but no, none of that stereotypical thing. Is that in Nova Scotia? Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, not really where my house is because it's so out of the way. But yeah, kids go trick or treating here.
Yeah, interesting. But that calling of trick or treat with that particular, I grew up with that.
Well, you should when you knock on the door when they open.
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
That's,
but what if someone did a trick?
Candy or die? What is it? Yeah.
A trick or treat. Well, that gives you a choice. What if you do a trick? Oh, where's the candy? Whoa, you didn't like my trick?
Yeah, exactly.
I had in our other house, exactly 1 mile from here. We did.
Funny.
It's exactly 5,280 feet exactly. End of driveway to end of driveway.
Oh my God, that's bizarre.
Couldn't plan it, and.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, and in that house, because I have robots and I make robots for fun, and I have them to do corporate entertainment at times. I had one of my robots at the house, and he was answering the door for Halloween. And by the end of the night, there was he's a comedian too. So at the end of the night, there was a crowd of people on the front lawn, and they had to have the police come over to do crowd control.
Oh my God.
And they told us we had to put him away because he was causing a danger to the people, because they're back to back all the way out into the street. And when cars come around the corner, they could possibly hit these people. So we certainly understood that, you know.
That is hilarious.
Hey,
I mean,
see.
except for, you know, the possible safety implications there. But that is, who knew? Did you have any idea?
I didn't know that was going to happen. I really didn't think that was
Yeah.
I thought we'd have a few people, but I didn't expect to have a crowd of people all the way out into the road. We had 50 people, 50, 60 people at any one time in front of the front lawn.
So I really have to ask, how did this play out in terms of real time? Like, how long were they suddenly like boom there, or over 4 or 5 minutes did you notice, well, there's an accumulation of people out here? How did that play out?
I noticed that the robot attracted a small crowd initially, and I saw some people on the end run to go get other people, and next thing you know, cars were coming and people were making phone calls, and then and then the lawn was chock full of people. It's a much smaller house than the one I'm in, so it was kind of funny.
That is just hilarious.
I want to say, just want to take a moment to say hi to Craig and Marco and Keith from P&K Space Imaging. If you haven't seen the moon until you see it on P&K Space Imaging's instrumentation. It makes ours pale by comparison. So I just want to say hi to them, and Daisy and Zoe, I think I had said hello to you as well as 2W. There's the shot I was looking for.
Ooh,
this
screen though
is the dumbbell.
Oh, look at that.
And this is the color that needs to be altered.
corrected.
Yeah. I'm going to just do it.
It is not green. We don't have green stars.
No, the stars are not green.
I think we do. We just haven't found them.
Well, physics says no, but okay. I can't deny the possibility that you could be right. Look at, see, we could have that. Shows you the difference. See, being able to go to different color palettes like this shows you the different possibilities. Like when you look inside the nebula here, you actually see areas that are very different from the other areas. It stands out like a sore thumb, in other words.
Oh.
Okay. But the color that we're looking for is right about like this. All right. You know, this is a little bit more like it. Really pretty. And I mean, this is also.
Wow.
But you see that? That's the.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's actually too long of an exposure. You know. Oh, and Ronald's here too. I see him now. Yeah.
Hello, Ronald. Hello.
Yeah, he's here.
Hey, you gotta say hi to Marco, Carl.
Oh, Marco. Hello. And no, Marco, I'm no longer mad at you. Never was.
Katharine Hepburn. I mean, you get it.
Okay. Please.
She knows how to do Katharine Hepburn without doubt.
Daryl,
doesn't she sound like Daryl? Daryl, doesn't she sound like Katharine Hepburn when she does that?
You're too generous. But wow, that color, that shade is amazing. What is that? What would you call that? Aqua? What is that?
Yeah, and I have to try and correct a little bit more here. Get a little better. Get a little bit better.
Ronald wants to know what the expansion rate of the gas is.
Oh.
The gas doesn't really move out that fast. It's only moving at like supersonic speeds, believe it or not. So it's not going terribly fast. But that's why it takes so long for the gases to go out a light year, you know. But that's what they do. They go out about a light year, and then and beyond that, the star in the middle here, this white dwarf right there in the middle, can't excite beyond about a light year. So certainly, and everything within this is lifeless, because it's high energy ultraviolet radiation that's causing the glow to occur in the gas here in the interstellar medium. Now, the glow alone wouldn't hurt you that much. I mean, this is what's called a rarefied medium. There's very few atoms per cubic centimeter out here. Okay, not a lot at all. So you would see that there's not enough atoms for it to be like an atmosphere that's incandescent, with heat, right? But boy, is it beautiful. I just like it so much. Anyway.
Why does it have, okay. Yeah, all right, here I go. So waxing into the strange. Why does it have a welcoming quality? What would there be? There's no pareidolia at play here, is there? I mean, I don't see, what would there be that's within the human eye brain sort of deal. I don't see a face. I don't see anything. It's not like, ooh, it looks like a fuzzy puppy, right? Or a nice soft pillow. What I wonder what
I think
what the appeal is.
I think the appeal is the color.
The color.
And
okay.
Karen Belmont in chat mentions the color. Is there a filter on this? Yes, there is. But Karen, just so you know, this red color on the nebula and this aqua blue here is the actual color. All right, so the filter I'm using will accentuate those colors and make them, they look real, but the surrounding space is a little bit blue for two reasons. Number one, that's the result of LED streetlights, which there's not many, but it's enough so that you can get this, especially at this low angle in the sky. And it's also the result of the filter. So,
can the star reform after this?
Can the star what?
Reform.
Inside?
Yeah.
Oh, in the nebula? No. It's gotten to the point where it's used up all its hydrogen fuel, and it's now in a state of what's called electron degeneracy, and that is the white dwarf that is in the center.
And if you think electron degeneracy is hot, just wait till you try neutron degeneracy.
Yeah, that's right, because that's more massive stars. White dwarfs like the one in the middle here, the surface of the white dwarf is predominantly carbon and oxygen atoms, really, really compressed. Has an actual surface, unlike our star. You could kind of go into our star until you, of course, could handle no more of the heat, and of course it gets hotter as you go near the center, and you wouldn't really get too far into our star before you're now surrounded by denser and denser atoms that are without their electrons, known as plasma. So high energy protons zipping around, and this plasma is the stuff that makes up the solar wind. And sometimes there are coronal mass ejections. The outer atmosphere of the star blows off a massive amount of mass, that is high energy plasma, which reaches the Earth. And when I was at Niagara Falls, the one thing I noticed right away is the sheer unbelievable number of surface towers for electricity. Niagara Falls handles 25% of New York's electrical budget. Okay, and it's absolutely unbelievable. And we went into the dam that's right downriver from Niagara Falls, and it's the Niagara Power Project. And we went down, we saw the turbines spinning. We got into the private little spaces where you could see the turbines whipping around, and it was loud. I've got video of it, which I'll share. I can't share it now because I haven't brought it to my computer yet. And we also were able to see above the shaft of the spinning the impeller, the little propeller down below that's being whipped around by the water rushing through. Above that was a stator, that is to say, a little motor, and the motor is basically being spun by the water. And if you ever play with a DC motor, you know that you can put a battery on the positive and negative leads, and the motor will spin. But if you spin the motor, say by hand, then what happens is you get electricity out of the wires at the other end. So it works both directions. And that's what's happening at the dam. You're getting electricity out of the leads, basically. And they convert it into AC current, and you get what's called three-phase power out of this dam. And it's really amazing. And I actually had a Tesla meter, a magnetic device to measure magnetic field. And we would walk into the dam, and as we walked through the different turbines, the Tesla meter would peg out in the red, saying, "Okay, this is a dangerously high magnetic field here." you know.
Wow.
So, and I did that because I was afraid that the cameras might suffer some ill effects from the changing magnetic field, which causes electric fields and so forth. Cameras are sensitive; you don't want to blow them out. So, in fact, we did have a problem with the camera. We had to go back the next day and reshoot 2 of the major scenes we did in the dam because potentially of the electrical interference. So it was a heck of an experience. And wait until you see the video of this stuff going on. It's just, wow. I'm amazed at how much power water has. Because this hydroelectric facility is incredible. It has 13 turbines, all underground, and you can go into them, which we did. And the hallway that looks, down the dam. It's inside the dam. This long hallway where all the electrical gear is and all the turbines and so forth is like a half-mile long. And to get down there, you gotta use golf carts to move back and forth. You can't,
Wow.
you can't walk it. So they have bicycles and they have golf carts for you to take. And so it's really impressive. Really impressive. But
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, but see,
Were there a lot of other people down there?
well, just the workers.
Mhm.
Yeah, just the workers.
But it's not anything that you can't sign up as a tourist and see it.
They have a public tour, and we were doing something for the New York Power Authority, which is what this Tesla movie is for. And so we ended up, being able to do all manner of things,
Whoa.
which were incredible. So we got people who know what they're doing. We actually got our hair to stand up on end with, these electrical units that could make that happen. It was really fun. And Doug liked this so much he bought one of them. I showed him where to get one online, and he bought it immediately.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is hilarious.
Yeah, it was in the public section. The Van de Graaff generator makes your hair stand on end. I used to play with them for years. So it's pretty cool. And once again, this is the Dumbbell Nebula M27, Measure 27 in Vulpecula, which is one of Amanda's favorite constellations.
Carol, do you know anything about Pokemon?
Not as much as you do. I pass the ball to you. I pass the Pokemon to you, the controller to you. Yeah.
There's a little fire fox named Vulpix.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
this
Okay.
is well, it's not a constellation, I guess. What is it?
It is. It's the constellation.
Is it a constellation?
Yeah,
It is.
Vulpecula.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of a little fox.
Vulpecula.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's very good. I like little foxes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
And Jacob wanted to see his sign, Sagittarius, but unfortunately you
Oh,
can't
it's
see
sad.
full constellations in the sky.
we
Sometimes you see
could
little
show them.
pieces of them called asterisms.
We could
but,
show them in
Yeah,
here,
asterisms,
and that's about it. In this, we could see
Yeah.
Jacob.
Well, yeah, sure. Show him Sagittarius in this one.
And Jacob corrected you there, Carol. It's past the Pokeball.
Oh, past the Pokeball. All right. See. Okay.
Come
yeah,
on, you gotta get it right
okay,
now.
Yeah. I'm so easy to correct in this particular thing. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, you're funny.
Whatever you say.
I think that's great. No, it's wonderful. It's really wonderful, guys. Okay, let's see now. I'm trying to remember where the telescope is pointed in the observatory. I had a question earlier, and I don't know if it was a question, but a statement. Someone was asking if the
Planets could have been around the nebula? That was a question.
no, that was being asked if the telescope actually was being controlled from inside, and the answer is yes, it is. So this is the dome here, and it's a true dome, as I said. There's the opening right here, and the telescope is pointing out of it right now. This is north this direction, this is east, west, this is east over here, and this is south this way. So we're actually looking northeast right now from inside the dome.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's a break in your weather. You had ferocious weather for a while.
Yeah, we had 60-mile-an-hour winds. I had to get up.
Yeah.
I kept getting up in the middle of the night to make sure the dome was still there.
Whoa.
Yeah, because at one point we had just sub-hurricane force winds come ripping through, and the dome was only rated to 50 miles an hour. And what came through was a gust of 60, and I heard all this loud crunching and banging, and I thought, oh, that's the dome. And I'm just imagining thousands of dollars going away in the wind. But it turned out that it was actually fine. It weathered the storm perfectly.
Fantastic.
The shutters are the things that close in the dome. So right now it's looking open through the opening.
Okay.
And the shutters retract this way, so they come right down the back of the dome down here, and then they go this way and shut. Well, those have been ripped off 3 times by the wind. And in the middle of the winter in a blizzard, it was a huge blizzard. They got torn right off and vanished into the blizzard, and the entire dome was filled with snow. The computer that was in there was buried by a 4-foot snowdrift. The telescope pier was covered with about 3 feet of snow. I went out there, and it was like 15 degrees, okay?
Oh, God.
And I started digging, and I was like, I'm not going to let there be snow in this dome. And I cleaned it out and brushed it all out, and I left the computer. Literally, I pulled it out from where it was and stuck it outside of the dome on a shoveled area, and it was still covered with snow. It had snow packed in it from the wind driving in for hours. And I cleared the telescope, and then I shut the dome again because the temperature was going to stay cold, and I wanted to make sure that I had the control over where the snow was on the telescope. Luckily, I had covered the telescope the night before the storm came, so I knew the telescope inside was fine, but the pier was just covered. And the telescope's computer, on the other hand, was full of snow. So I brought it over just outside my shop, which is 2 garages off my house, and it was cold, like I said, 15 degrees. So I went inside without the computer. It was still outside, and I charged up the compressor with the air dust off thing, that blows air.
Yeah.
And I opened the garage real quick. I pulled the computer in, set it up on top of the table, and dusted off that thing like no tomorrow. I got rid of all the snow by blowing it out while it was still frozen, because it came out while it was still frozen. Nothing
so
melted.
there was no moisture.
Yeah. And even if there was, it would have been fine as long as I let it dry. If you shut off a computer and you just throw it in the lake, and you come back the next morning, you take it out of the lake, and you let it dry, except for particles and particulates that might get in there, a little algae or whatever, it'll work just fine as long as it wasn't on when you put it in, and as long as it dries off before you start it up again. So I left the computer off for 2 days, dried it out, left it in my shop. It was a frigid piece of steel when I got to it again, because it was so cold. But when the temperature was up above 32, I actually plugged it in, and when it started up, the fans were turning barely, going like making these funny noises. And then they warmed up and they started working again. I was like, how about that? It's working. So I was okay. I made it. So there's been some trials.
Yeah, that's
been some
a
trials.
Trial. Oh my God.
Let me say, just a few trials.
Yeah.
Yep, but it's all right. Not bad. It seems to work just fine. I don't feel that there's any problem. And this little guy here, I wanted to see this before, and we're gonna go check him out. And I love this music too.
Oh, nice.
Well, Karen, put it in rice. Well, I didn't have enough rice to put my whole PC in. But that's okay. Because just by blowing it out and getting all the snow out before it melted, there was nothing left to melt. So I just let the computer sit for a couple days. When I knew it was all dry, and then when I did start it, it was fine. And so it's been fine ever since. Except for those weird little glitches I get sometimes where... no, I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's see now. We're going to go here. By the way, Carol, thank you for joining us again.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me and technically getting me in here. This is definitely... I want to just say the education is... And so thank you for all that.
No, that's all right. Hey, Daryl, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever seen this nebula that I'm about to image? Hopefully it comes out. It's this little... it's not even named in Cygnus. It's just a strange little pair of stars that have some nebulous detail and, of course, an airplane passing through.
Wow.
Yeah. Let me see if I can...
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Now, the double stripe, what does that indicate, if anything?
Oh, no, that indicates... that tells you the...
Plane?
Yeah.
Oh, in fact, it's a triple stripe, right? So...
Oh, if you look, okay...
Yeah, okay.
Lights from a plane?
Yeah, there's a plane.
Yeah,
Yep.
so two separate planes or one plane?
No, just one.
Okay.
Okay, this is the green light, and this is the red light on the other side, and this is the belly strobe. Okay. No, it's not. It's got to be...
Okay.
These are all constant on lights. There's no... Well, if it was flying fast through the view, this could have been a Cessna. And so it flew fast, but its belly strobe is literally would have to come through in less than a second. So I don't know. I'm not sure.
Should we start playing the X-Files music now, or what?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's definitely a plane.
All right. Okay.
You missed it earlier though, because we actually had we were looking at the moon, and we had a jet pass in front of the moon.
Wow, really? Oh my God.
But it was going away from us because the moon was starting to set, and so it stayed over the moon for a substantial amount of time. Amanda got the...
and it looked strange, right?
Oh, yeah. Amanda got the timestamp for it, so she can...
Yeah, it was at 2018.
Oh my God, okay, cool. Oh,
yeah.
What a grab, Amanda.
Yeah, she did a nice job. Here it is, Daryl. See it?
Yes, that red stuff on the left.
Yeah.
Have I seen it before? I don't know. Probably, maybe.
Yeah.
Don't remember. If it doesn't have a name, I wouldn't know it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's there and it's not labeled at all in the chart. So I'm curious why it's gone unlabeled.
I'm curious what the little curved white thing is in the stream of the airplane.
Could that be the tail of the plane?
Almost
like in panoramic?
It looks to me like maybe it was an illuminated section that was illuminated by this strobe of the plane, because these are the strobes. Flash, see?
There's a rather wing-like look to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't line up with any of the lights, though.
Well, it's at an angle, okay, because I think that this is the belly strobe, and this is the navigation light on the other wing. This is the green light on the other wing, all right? And this might be a tail, but I'm not sure. But this strobe here should typically be at a wingtip. And they're usually in sync. They shouldn't be at an angle like this. So that's kind of weird. And there's only 2 of them. We don't have any more. Which says it went through pretty fast.
So the speed unusual?
It just means it was lower than
Okay.
you know. I mean, this width here. This tells me that it might have been pretty low, because usually a plane going through is going to be much smaller. Like the plane that went through in front of the moon was about the size of from here where I have my arrow to about here. It was the whole jet was from here to here in size.
Wow.
And this is, I'm looking almost straight up, so this is definitely gonna go through as fast as it can. I mean, this is the fastest it'll go through.
And that angle, you find the angle unusual as well?
I'm just having trouble reading it. I'm tired from all the things, and some of the things we're seeing is spillover light on the fuselage of the plane too. That's in between the reds. Okay, we see other stuff here. That could just be a glint on the fuselage that we're seeing as the plane's moving through. But I think that a strobe lit up something on the plane here. And it is odd looking. It does look like a boomerang, but wouldn't that be funny if we found out it was a boomerang UFO sighted in Terryville, Connecticut, masquerading as a plane?
God, would not be something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry. But anyway, this is the object we're looking at, but that's okay. So we caught two jets. We caught a jet. And we caught a plane. What else did we catch? Probably a cold. Yeah, that's probably good. Okay, let's go up here. Travel up in Cygnus.
Got the edge of the dome in an image.
Oh, that's true, right? Thank you. Thank you.
God.
Yeah, we don't mention my errors. You know that.
Well,
What errors?
I was scrambling.
okay.
I wanted a third to complete that little.
Yeah, that's okay. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you won.
Ta-da!
Daryl, you see anything you want to see out there?
I'd have to look at your stellarium.
Okay.
You were in the neighborhood of Saturn.
I was,
Can
yeah.
you see the crescent or anything up along the spine of the swan?
Well, let's take a look, because the crescent is exactly what I'm looking at now. I'm on the crescent right now.
What do you know? That's amazing.
Let's see if we catch it. Well, I should actually check out where the dome is pointing, where the telescope's pointing. Well, let's see here. We might be okay. Might be okay. Yes. And yes, Daryl, look. Look at that, Daryl. There's the crescent. Ordered specifically for you. And of course, I got a little bit of walk. I gotta redo it. Check it out. See that?
Yep.
Yeah, and you can actually see it goes all the way down.
Little red there on the left side.
Yeah, and I see that this is a little better color rendering, and that's a little
There you go.
A little better. So, but I have to just do something here right now. I gotta redo this. Do this shot. We do it for 20 seconds at 32,000.
Looked like the red was showing up at both ends of it there before you switched.
Yeah, it did. And see, you can see it right here. Oh, sorry. You can see it right here. And right here. It really goes. Yeah, you can see some in here too. The crescent actually does have quite a extensive reach. It does kind of go all the way out here. We just have to be able to catch that. And to catch it, we would need a reasonably dark sky and or commitment on my part to do it. And do it right. All right, let's see. Let's go move this over a little. Okay. Now, let's do 20 seconds. first. Okay. So I have to do a rehabbing on the motor drive of the telescope at some point, because when I take photos, it shouldn't have any walking of the stars. You shouldn't have little oblong images. They should just be a little more sharp. And since they're not, it means that there's, at times, like not now in this image looks pretty good, but we probably should figure out a way, you see, to get this to look more like this every time. Oh,
So
yes.
what causes the walking?
The telescope has a drive that follows the rotation of the Earth, but sometimes it's not as accurate as it could be. So that accuracy depends on a number of things, but not the least of which is the fact that the telescope itself has to be in tip-top condition. And I don't know, I mean, a telescope that's left outside year-round in a dome is going to get alternately cold and hot in different seasons, and so that's going to change things, and weather, humidity, and things do get to it. Even though I have a water trap system out there to prevent moisture from getting into the electronics, I didn't have one for the first 6 months, and that caused some issues. Yeah. Yeah, see, this looks nice.
Oh.
This is a well-focused image for this. Yeah, there we go.
Wow.
Yes, indeed. That looks pretty good. Okay. Let me... Okay. Yeah, okay. Let me adjust that one a little bit. Adjusting. If you guys out there know anything you'd like to see, just make note of it, and we will see if we can check it out for you. That's what we like to do.
This time of year, you have the usual suspects trailing up from Cygnus, where you are, to Deneb, North America, Pelican, up to Cepheus, and the Heart and Soul, and the Fish Head,
That's right.
and on to Cassiopeia, and coming back to Perseus, Double Cluster, all the usuals.
Yep, and they are the usuals, and we do want to check those out as well. So
It's that time of year.
yeah, and so here, when Daryl's talking about is coming up through Cygnus, and Cygnus the Swan is here. I do this for Amanda, ta-da! So you can see the swan.
Ah, beautiful.
You were supposed to show Jacob Sagittarius, by the way.
Oh, but it's set.
Show him in still. Huh?
Sagittarius is probably set in the southwest by now.
You can't show him in Stellarium? It's under...
Oh, I guess I could. I mean, I guess we could, but I'd have to turn off the ground. And then down here is Sagittarius, the archer.
Nice.
And there's Scorpius, the scorpion.
I saw him, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all set. They're all set now, so... And see, here's the teapot, Sagittarius, that Daryl talks about often. The handle, the body of the teapot, the cap, the lid, and the spout. And of course, as Daryl has told you, the Milky Way spills out of the spout. That's sort of cool.
I think that's amazing. I love things like that. That's really
It's a
cool.
neat thing.
The steam coming out the spout of the teapot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's really cool.
That is very cool.
And we're looking here, and this is Cygnus the Swan. It's beautiful.
Oh, and there's another request for Gemini, and it wasn't me.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, Daisy and Zoe, yeah, they're asking to see Gemini, and I can show you where it is.
It's up yet. It's really low.
Yeah. Let me get rid of...
That pesky Earth.
yeah, no, the Earth needs to be there. We need it, or else we don't have a place to stand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and there's Aldebaran and Pleiades I want to check out tonight. Capella, and then down here, right down here, is Castor and Pollux, the twins Gemini. How do I know? Because there they are. They're on the northeastern horizon, rising up to take their place in the sky. Forever to follow Auriga. Yeah, I would like to take us to some of these things. So, let's do that, shall we?
Oh, shall we?
So, before I do that, I do want to take us over to Uranus. And Uranus won't be visible until I move the dome, but that's okay. I'm sure you don't mind, because it's Uranus. Now, as we
We'll
move,
struggle through.
you'll struggle through, right? As we move the dome, or the telescope rather, you can see the telescope is moving down into the dome a little bit. Okay? And that's where I have to move. Now, you can still see a little something because there's a little bit of light getting into the telescope. But that's Uranus right there. So right now we're cutting the opening of the telescope down to the equivalent of maybe a 3 or 4 inch. But if you let me go, I'll be right back, and I'll just move the dome, okay? And make it so that we can see all these things I want to show you in the other part of the sky.
Make it so.
So, we'll be right back after these words. Make it so, number one.
Karen, to answer your question, I'll talk for Mark while he's gone. If you go out just after sunset, Mercury and Venus are very low in the west-southwest. They set soon after the sun. But if you let the sky start to darken, you'll see a bright white object down in the southwest. That is the planet Jupiter. It's unmistakable. It's the brightest thing up there. And then if you look about 2 handspans to the left of Jupiter, it's right next to the moon tonight, you will see Saturn, the one with the ring around it. That's it for bright planets tonight. Jupiter sets early. Venus and Mercury set right after the sun. Jupiter is setting probably by 8 o'clock at night or so now, and Mercury will be following a couple of hours later, setting maybe 10 o'clock over in the southwest. And everything else is dim, like Mark is pointing toward Uranus right now. Uranus is not impressive in a telescope, but hey, you can say you saw it.
Cool.
Be interesting to see the stellarium view when Mark comes back where Uranus is. It looked like, I guess it would be Pisces maybe. Looked like it was right over Menkar and the head of the whale, Cetus. We'll find out in a minute.
Sorry, I'm just trying to answer Jacob.
And we're back. I see.
I'm back.
Daryl, did you answer questions about the planets?
I did.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Karen asked. I try to give a
Sure.
description of where they are in the evening sky right now. They're all going away after sunset, but
Yep.
here we have Uranus, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Thought I could see color in it for a second there.
You can.
Should
when
be
it-
kind of a bluish color.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's first do that. Let's turn off the tracking. Okay, and now with the tracking off, it's going to move slowly across the screen. So let's do a 20-second exposure. And now as we do a 20-second exposure, Uranus is going to be a dash, as will other stars near it. And you'll see some of the color of Uranus. I was at 32,000. I probably should have done it less because it's probably going to show up almost white.
And Justin must have been waiting for that all night.
Now you can see it's got that that teal look, and you can see some of the fainter stars back there. And we use star trails, actually, believe it or not. We use trails like this quite often because if you do a look like, if you look around the equator and you take a long photograph like this and you just let your telescope trail, what it means is you've turned off the drive and you let it stay fixed relative to the Earth. So in other words, you're rotating with the Earth now. And because geosynchronous satellites stay over one spot on the Earth, then we should see every star being a dash, but the geosynchronous satellites will be this little tiny wobbly star. It's sort of, will be there. I don't have any in this view, but I'm just telling you that that's how it looks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah. So, okay, so now let's take one of Uranus the way it ought to be. And now what we do is we have to let's redo the, let's get the telescope to bring Uranus back. On top of it, once it stops, let's track again. And you'll see the tracking turn on here. Here it is. Now we're tracking again. And I'm going to take a 20 seconds at 32,000 again because I want to see if we can pick out any moons of Uranus, okay? And when I say moons of Uranus, what I'm talking about is, all right, let's actually go here. All right, take a look.
Oh.
Okay, so if we get close, we should be able to see Titania and maybe Ariel and Oberon. Okay, so a little right triangle in this exact look, and maybe Umbriel. But let's go check it out.
How about Miranda? Could you get Miranda? Oh, wow.
Miranda's way up there, so it
Yeah,
might be a
no,
little.
yeah.
Well, let's go see. Here we go.
Okay.
Okay, well, we did get a little blur, but that's okay. This dash right here is probably that's probably what is that one? That one that we're just looking at. Let me just go back here real quick. I'm guessing that one is probably Oberon, because this brightness is going to be pretty big. So maybe we lost Ariel in the glare of Uranus and Titania for sure, I think.
Charles has a question.
Okay.
With some of the geosynchronous, oh my god, I can't pronounce the word.
Geosynchronous?
Geosynchronous satellites move up and down, north and south.
They wobble in their orbit, yeah, and it has to do with where they're located on the equator relative to the Earth, and that's part of it's a characteristic of their orbit. So the wobble doesn't affect them too much in terms of what they do for their jobs, but they are very much little wobblers, and you can't miss them. And we've taken pictures of geosynchronous birds a lot, actually, in SkyTour LiveStream. And if we take a time exposure looking at the stars where they're all in focus and not trailed, the geosynchronous satellites look like trails, which is weird. You have to think of it the opposite way.
Wow.
We're following the stars, but the geosynchronous birds are sitting over the same spot on the Earth, but we're following the stars. So we're not rotating with the Earth. We're actually, the telescope's turning very slowly to follow the stars as they move. That is to say, as the Earth's rotating out from under the stars, we're still locking onto the stars. So a geosynchronous satellite, which is sitting over a particular spot on the Earth, is going to then look like a dashed trail. And that's kind of what happens. We've seen some actually looking in Orion. We've actually seen some. Let me get a good shot of Uranus for you, by the way, just because. Just to say we did. So let's go to 10.
Yeah.
Let's go 8,000, and we'll do 10 seconds at 8,000. Hey, Nancy.
Geosynchronous.
Yes,
I don't
that's
know why I
right.
couldn't say it earlier.
You did. You said it right the next
I
time you
know,
said it.
but tripped all over it before.
That's okay. There we go. There's a nice, beautiful photo.
Mm.
There's Uranus holding court, and there is Oberon.
That's gorgeous.
Oh,
Look.
there is
Oh my
there
God.
is Oberon, and there is Titania. See, Oberon and Titania.
Well done.
Yeah, we just had to do
So
it. We just
beautiful.
had to do a little bit less. Thanks, Daryl. We just had to do a little bit less time, and you can see the color.
See, and that's Uranus.
Yes. I know you want to think of it as Neptune
hair,
because you're thinking,
in,
of course.
in Sailor Moon,
Yeah.
Sailor Neptune's hair is that color.
Yeah, I hate to tell you, but they got it wrong. Or
They
they
get it wrong. I mean,
they just chose that color, but
yeah.
it's not the right color for Neptune.
Well, they're girlfriends, maybe. That's why.
Okay, it's
The
possible.
color of Neptune's hair.
They are our outer sisters out there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Uranus and Neptune.
I would wonder if you have a few, if you could zoom back in on that for a second.
Sure.
You had a couple of 3 more dim fuzzies
Up
just
here.
above there. Yeah, whether 1 or 2 of those might be the additional moons you were talking about.
Yeah, I was wondering if we would catch Miranda, and I mean, are any of them in that three formation? I wonder.
Hmm.
Where could Miranda be behind it?
Well, here's Miranda.
There she is.
If the orientation matches, Miranda would be at about 12 o'clock to Uranus.
Yeah, and I think that's right here.
Wow.
I think
Might be.
that looks like Miranda to me, or that's Miranda.
Oh God, that's so exciting.
It is.
Yeehaw.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, Charles. Uranus's axis is tilted.
Yeah.
And
Mark,
do
could
the
I ask a
moons
favor?
orbit with that?
Yeah, Daryl.
Before you leave the area, would you mind backing out a little bit in Stellarium? I just wanted to see the neighborhood.
Okay.
Do the moons orbit with the tilted axis of Uranus? Tilted axis?
Ooh. Hmm.
I don't know the answer. I suspect that they don't, but that's just me pontificating. I'm not sure if that's true. Farther, Daryl?
Daryl, any guess?
I believe they do. Amanda, are you asking, do
Charles' question.
the moon's Uranus axis is tilted? Yes. Do the moons orbit with it? Actually, I believe they do.
Okay, well.
That is, because we're looking at a sort of end on, if not precisely, that both the rings around Uranus and the moons around Uranus, we're sort of looking at their orbits face on, like a bullseye or a target shape, I want to say, I could be wrong.
Is this far enough here? You want to go out farther? What would you like to see?
Go out farther, please. I was wanting to see what
That's
constellation. Okay, where's Uranus? Is in Uranus Pisces. Oh, moving into Aries. Okay, and then what I thought that's the head of the whale, just to the lower left of Uranus, and Menkar is that's the nose or the eye of the whale. That's the one I mentioned a while back. That's Alpha Ceti.
Yeah.
And
This is
you
in
should have used
Cetus.
the name Minkar in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. You know,
Uh-huh.
Khan goes,
Yep.
"This is City Alpha 5." Well, that's City Alpha right there.
Yep.
And Minkar is a good Star Trek name.
Oh yeah.
Got that kind of flavor to it, you know.
Exactly.
So Uranus, if you see there, it's moved. It's just moved from Pisces into Aries.
Yep. And
Uranus has.
that's Pisces, the fish, into Aries, the ram.
Uh huh. Okay, thank you. That's all.
No worries. Thanks for offering that up,
Yes.
Daryl.
Hey, look, right over to the left of Uranus, there's Vesta.
That's right.
You want to try for an asteroid?
Yeah, we looked at it last time. I'm hoping
We
that
did?
not last time you and I were on, no. But last time Vesta was in the neighborhood, we did look at it, yeah. So let's go do it again. Okay. We're heading over to Vesta and see if we can get a Vesta experience. Now, to those in the chat, why would we be going to Vesta? What is Vesta? Well, Vesta.
I know.
Okay, I want to hear what you have to say.
An asteroid.
Yep. It's one of the biggest asteroids.
Not,
Geez, what's the number on Vesta? 2?
yes, and it's actually
Second discovered, and
it's not actually classified as an asteroid.
No. Is it a
dwarf
comet?
planet.
Yes.
Mm.
It's big enough to be a dwarf planet, I think, and of course, Ceres is definitely a dwarf planet, which is a little bit larger than Vesta. Vesta's not small. Okay, and I think this is Vesta right here. Let's do a 10,000 for 15 seconds on Vesta,
Yikes.
just to check out what's left in the background. I believe this is Vesta, not that, but let me just, I'm just going from memory of having seen it last time here. So here we go. Yowza!
I forget.
Thank you, Tom. I like that. Vesta is the virgin goddess of hearth and home. I like that.
Ah, yeah.
Ceres was first, Vesta was second, right? But isn't Vesta actually slightly brighter than Ceres? I may have that backwards. I forget.
I think Ceres, well, it depends on how close they are to us, relatively. This is Vesta here. And Vesta is a very bright little dwarf planet. Let me get us in the right view here. There we go. Hey, Tom Brown. Welcome to SkyTour LiveStream. And David Schmidt. Good morning, David. I say good morning to David because he's in Bangkok, where it is 10:25 in the morning.
Whoa.
He's as far away from us as he can be.
Yeah.
You know, we had people from France in here earlier, people from South America. We have people from all over the world that join us. It's really so much
A few
fun.
people from Europe.
Yeah.
Oh, besides France. I mean, Scotland, England.
Yeah, we had Andy Morrow was here for a while.
Yay.
He's from England, I believe.
England, up near Scotland. Up near the top of England.
Mm-hmm. Ceres is the biggest.
Yes.
Karen Belmont. Okay.
Oh, you were wrong. It's 9:25 there.
Oh, he's an hour.
10,
Oh,
25.
maybe because of. Okay,
It's 10 hours ahead of me.
11.
Mark, which spacecraft was it that visited Ceres and Vesta, I believe? Went to Vesta first, then Ceres?
Yeah,
Is that the Dawn spacecraft?
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Dawn went to Vesta. Vesta was thought to be dry as a bone. It turned out that was true. Ceres was thought to be very, very much laden with water-based compounds, and it was. So Vesta is as arid as can be. And so it was kind of interesting when Dawn went to Vesta first. There's some beautiful images of Vesta as well, taken by the Dawn spacecraft. And then Ceres, of course, you have that amazing double salt pile that accumulated.
Right. Yes.
Right. Yeah. And
then there were all those speculations about what that was. You know.
Yeah. And it turns out that those were salts percolating to the surface. And because Ceres is actually darker gray, to make a normalized photo that looks like Ceres was bright enough to see, those salt piles were made to glow, virtually glow, and so it looked like lights, and of course that sparked a lot of interesting imaginative thoughts, which I think is great if you're a science fiction writer,
Yeah.
I do. I think it's really
exactly.
good stuff.
Science fiction, speculative fiction, as it was once called. Yep.
Exactly. Daryl, thanks for pointing out Vesta nearby. That's kind of cool.
No worries.
I want to move along to the Pleiades right now. I don't know if we're gonna be able to see them without moving the dome.
Vesta was down by the tail of the bull.
That's correct. That's right.
And there's the head of the bull down there at the lower left.
Yep. You are smart.
I've been here before.
Yeah.
It's Aldebaran and the Pleiades, and now we're up on the bull's back. With the Pleiades.
Yeah. Here's Alcyone over here. Okay. And if you want to get a tour of the Pleiades, we can just go and I'll show you right off the bat so you can check it out. Okay. Alcyone was here. Okay. We have Merope down here. Okay. Electra over here. Seleno here. Tegeta. And Maya. All right. Over here is Atlas, but Atlas is a little out of our view right now. Asterope is here. So
busy holding up the world.
that's exactly right. Okay, David, thank you. Thanks for coming by, and hope to see you back in a few. Yeah, so looking back at this, this is, so here is Alcyone here. This is Merope over here. And I want to point that out because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the most beautiful nebula that I think exists in the heavens. And it is around Merope. Now, Merope and the rest of these, Seleno, Tegeta, and Maya, and the rest of the stars in the Pleiades, they're just passing through this region of the sky. And there happens to be dust here. So that's why we see what we see when we look at the Pleiades. And I'm going to show you what that is that we see. I've shown people before. I've shown all of you before, but we'll do it again. Why not, right?
Why not?
So
Jacob wants to know where the Dogen star is. Dogen.
Oh, the Dogen star. Wasn't that Sirius?
I believe it is. Yes.
Yeah. There was some mythos about how could the Dogon know about Sirius B, which was a fainter star. Hey, Papa Tom. I think that the only way that they could have known about it, if they actually had knowledge of it, well, there's two ways. An extraterrestrial being could have told them about it, or it's possible that the star that made it was a star that was a normal-sized star and had gone through its red giant phase and then shrunk down to a white dwarf, which is what we see around there now, which is Sirius B. So that's possible. Don't know for sure. Okay, so you can see this blue glow around the stars here. This is definitely the nebulous clouds that are associated with the Pleiades. Pleiades is not high enough to show well right now, but it's high enough that we can check out some of it, you know. And let me see if I can. I'll bring us down to just Merope here.
Excuse me, please. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right, so okay. Und now, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go look at all the good stuff while Daryl's not here. I'm kidding, of course. All right, I'm going to go up to 40,000 and 20 seconds and try and get the beautiful brushed nebula I like so much here. Charles asked a great question. Could anything cause a white dwarf to flare? Yeah, as a matter of fact, there's plenty of things. In fact, one of the things is that a white dwarf, by necessity, is just shy of the 1.44 solar masses that beyond which, at 1.44 solar masses, it would become a different type of star. So one thing can happen if you look at white dwarfs that are in binary systems where there's another, say, red giant near it. That surface of the white dwarf is very volatile, and there's no fusion going on as in other stars on a white dwarf. It's just a hot remnant with carbon and oxygen atoms on its surface, and so. But it has gravity, and so at the halfway point, or the center of mass of the system, between a binary star and a white dwarf, material from that red giant star, for instance, could bleed through and then land on the surface of the white dwarf. And there's a certain point it comes where that material on the surface can undergo fusion. In fact, it can undergo fusion immediately everywhere. And that's what we call a nova, not a supernova, a nova. And sometimes that explosion can, it's called disrupt or destroy the star, the remains of the star, or sometimes it'll just flare off, making a flare kind of a thing. But the flare is massive and huge, gives off a lot of energy, a lot of light, a lot of radiation. And then the star goes back to being a white dwarf again, a normal white dwarf, and then as more material accumulates on the surface of the white dwarf, this can happen again. So that's the issue with these white dwarfs. So if there's a white dwarf in our neighborhood, you can be sure that if it's in a binary system, that it's going to be a pretty active place. Yeah. All right, let's see now. Let's see if I can take us.
Can you hold that view right there for a minute?
You want to talk about these?
Yeah.
All right.
When I'll go back up so you can see. There you go. The Pleiades, and that's the Hyades, V shape there on the left side of the screen. Aldebaran there in that V shape. Is the eye of Taurus the bull, and you see the lines extending to the upper left. That's his horns, of course. What you're seeing is generally said to be the two closest open clusters to Earth. However, there's another candidate. When you see the Hyades there, of which Aldebaran is actually a foreground object, it's not part of the cluster. When you see the Hyades there, that V shape, I forget, what is it, like 170 light years away? And then when you look up and out farther over the bull's shoulder at the Pleiades, toward the upper right there, is about 400 light years away. These are generally said to be the two closest open clusters to Earth. However, what a lot of people actually forget is the Ursa Major moving group, I think it's called.
Yeah, that's right.
Mark, which its center is about 80 light years from us, and some say we're going right through it, and I've even heard it said we might belong to it.
Yeah.
I don't remember if that's true or not. But,
Well, no, it was at one point, Daryl, it was thought that we originated with the stars of the Big Dipper in a cluster, and because we're inside of it, we don't really recognize it, but our proper motions seem to indicate that we're all traveling together, that maybe we were not gravitationally bound to each other, but we were now dispersing, having once formed together. So our area of space might have been a rather interesting location back when the sun was forming. We might have had more than one star forming here, and they could have been, Mizar and Dubhe and, the other stars of the Big Dipper, which is just a pattern of stars or an asterism within Ursa Major. So it's pretty cool,
We have some requests coming in.
Okay.
Jacob wants to say either the Horsehead Nebula in Orion
Or the Eagle.
or the Eagle Nebula.
Yeah, Eagle has set,
Observatory.
and as you look on the screen, Orion is just rising, and the Horsehead Nebula is right down here near Alnitak, the leftmost star. And so it's really, it only, oh my gosh, it's not even, it's just it's less than 10 degrees above the horizon, so it's not even, it's not worth looking at right now. We would never be able to see it remotely. We're looking through too much air. But we do have some other good things out here. And I do want to take us now into Cepheus. I'm sorry, Auriga. Because there's a couple things I wanted to look for in here. And then one of them was I wanted to check out the Pinwheel Cluster and the Flaming Star Nebula. And all the little clusters in here are really quite pretty. So let's go.
I'll be back in a sec.
All right, I'll be here.
Okay.
So I'm going to head over to the Flaming Star, and if the dome is in the way, I'll move it. Hope you all don't mind.
We'll be here.
Yeah, Oh.
Okay, what do you think?
Well, I see stars on my screen. We might have just an edge of the dome in there. But let's see, shall we? Let's do 10 seconds at 40,000, just for the fun of it, just to catch whether we actually have dome in the way.
Ready, set, go.
Done. And we'll see. Thanks for coming on board again, Carol. It was nice of you to come on board.
Hey, well, I was just hanging around. After my show ends, there's this, so look at that. Yeah.
Dome's
okay,
in the
so,
way.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, your show was over. We actually started around 8 o'clock. After your show.
Yeah.
So we could not interfere and to also...
Bless your heart. Yeah, that's...
Oh, of course. But to be able to be part of all of that, so...
Big of you. Yeah.
Well, not really.
I was gonna snag you to come on at the top of the show, but it didn't work, and I know you've had a packed week, but next week would be swell. We can set that up.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you need me on board, I'm there. All right, I'll be right back. I'm gonna move the dome.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go.
I think Amanda is going away right now, and Daryl is still away.
Okay,
No,
well,
Oh, good.
Oh, there
Okay.
he is. Fantastic.
Well, I'll be right back, Daryl.
Okay.
Excellent. So, Daryl, are you still in freezing, chilling winter weather?
Oh, no, well, I may have said earlier,
Yes, right.
yesterday, Halloween Day, it cleared up beautifully and the sun came out and melted much of the snow. And I went out and helped it with the snow shovel for the kids showed up. And,
Oh, good.
I carved my pumpkin and got everything set. And I had 2 whole groups of trick-or-treaters last night. Like 2 groups of 5. There were 9 or 10 total, maybe.
I'll be darned.
And I was so disappointed. Halloween used to be
Yeah.
really big in the neighborhood, and it's like so much today. It's changed. Kids go to trunk or treats instead of trick or treats, and I think there was some legitimate concern last night that though it did melt a lot yesterday, it was going to refreeze after dark and turn into a skating rink outside,
Oh, yeah, not good.
and that might have been keeping the kids away. But
Yeah.
yesterday was absolutely gorgeous day, and today was okay. It wasn't as warm, and it clouded up later. It was okay. I mean, it does that here. It'll snow, and usually the sun is back the next day, and if not the next day, then 2 days later, the sun comes back
Yeah.
out, melts it all.
Yeah. Do you get slush where it sort of piles up at the curbs and gets all brown and icky?
It's usually not around long enough to do that.
Ah,
I mean, we get slush here, but it just we're over 6,000 feet elevation here, and the sunlight is
Oh.
very strong, and it tends to melt the snow really fast once the sun comes back up, which is one of the saving graces of living here.
Yeah, yeah. No, that sounds, yeah. I lived in Michigan where there was slush aplenty. Yeah, the street, the cleaners, the street sweepers, the snowplows had to, and so it would end up in the gutters and along the parkways where it would sit and turn this lovely brown, eventually before it melted. But yeah, anyway, so Michigan and snow. Wow,
Yeah.
we're looking at something amazing. Is Mark still gone?
Looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, no, there he is coming back. Okay, I think I
There he
see
is.
movement in the lower front. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so
Sure would be great if we had some grenades.
I
Huh,
knew
Mel?
that was coming.
I missed it. I didn't expect it. Yeah.
Sure would be great if we had some grenades.
Blammo. Okay.
That's funny. Okay.
David Schmidt, you have the right idea. Yeah, screw those silly little plastic pumpkins and cute little Halloween thingies. They sell you now. Pillowcases are where it's at.
That's right.
Yeah.
Philip,
Full-size
don't
candy
cook it.
bars. Damn it.
Yeah.
That's right.
And one thing that's even better than pillowcases was burlap bags. I will never forget when I was a kid, there was some punk kid in the neighborhood with a burlap bag. He was going around beating up the little kids and taking their pillowcases and dumping them into his burlap bag.
Oh.
And he wound up getting run over by a semi-truck. So
Oh my God, you're kidding! Wow.
that's what you
Holy
get for being...
cow.
Daryl was
That's-
driving
So
it.
stick with the pillowcases, kids.
An unhappy ending.
Daryl was driving it, yeah.
Yeah, right. That's right. It's a Stephen King novel.
Yeah, that's right. Like Children of the Corn or Daryl of the Corn.
Daryl of the Daryl of the burlap. Okay.
Of the candy corn.
Yeah.
The candy corn. There
That's
you
very
go.
good, Daryl.
There you go.
Very good.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent.
Okay, Flaming Star Nebula is not visible. Auriga is still low. I can
Oh.
still see a little bit of it, but not much. But I just thought I would share it with you to let you know we're going to be looking at that later in the season. Oh yeah. And let's see now. Now.
Nice
there
to know
is-
what's coming up.
Yes, it is. And then we have NGC 1893, which is an open star cluster, but there's actually a tremendous amount of reflection nebula in here. And we'll see if we can see it. But again, it's kind of low. But let's try it, shall we? Telescope is perfectly placed, as you can see. Well, maybe not so perfectly placed, actually.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, it could be. Okay, well, anyway, rather than belabor it, let me just take a picture and see. And I'm just taking a picture. I'm not even letting the scope even out yet.
Uh-huh.
Just doing it to see 10 seconds at 40,000, just to see if there's anything there. Yeah, what do we got?
Hmm.
I don't know. There's the cluster, but do we have any nebulous detail? Oh yeah, there is, but it's just very faint. I see it, but it's faint. Yeah. I looked at these clusters in Auriga when I was a kid with my telescopes. I was like, wow, there they are. You know, and all it was a stopgap until I could wait for Orion to come up. And I would just stare at Orion for hours. Oh,
Oh my God.
it was just beautiful, you know? Okay, this is called the Spider Nebula. I have never seen the Spider Nebula. And I don't know why they call it the Spider Nebula. Probably because it looks like a spider. I seem to recall this, though.
Hmm.
Have you seen the Spider Nebula, Daryl? Is Daryl not with us?
I'm sorry, I
Oh.
was muted. No, I never have.
Okay, because
Never
I
have what?
seen the Spider
Seen a
Nebula.
Spider Nebula.
Ooh, gross.
Oh,
You crack me
and
up.
that's what Amanda takes away from this.
A spider nebula. Can it at least be called like the arachnid nebula or something?
Well, I'm
And
allergic
that
to cats.
spider makes it scary.
I'm allergic to cats, but I still don't have a problem with a cat's paw.
Yeah, well,
Oh, let's see
Or
the cat's paw.
eye.
Don't say you just did.
No, I didn't. Hello, Joanna. Hey, Rockstar.
Can we see the cat's paw? Is it up?
Don't know. I have to check.
Meow, 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 meow. Is it anywhere near the cat's eye? Probably not. It should be.
It should be. She deemed
And
it so.
what should we have? Deneb?
no, I'm picturing the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland, of course, which has nothing to do with the case, but
That's okay.
Amanda, what were you saying about the cat's tail?
Is it Deneb? Does that mean tail?
Deneb means tail, yes.
Yes. So there should be a cat Deneb. Or a
There,
feline Deneb.
there is Denebola, which is the tail of the lion in Leo.
Okay, well that'll do. That's a big cat.
It really is.
Denebola is the lion's tail.
well, and it could be a Manx cat, though. Let's not forget about that.
Interesting.
There is another cat constellation called Lynx.
Yeah.
Don't ask me where it is. I don't remember. It's not a prominent constellation. Bunch of little dim stars.
The poor lynx.
So are you trying to say, Daryl, that you don't have the links to the links?
Sorry.
No, I'm the one who's sorry. I am so sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that one. Just that was.
It's okay. So okay. All right. Forgive me. I'm
Okay. You're all right.
all right. Well,
R.
the end of the end of the week. Ah, God. Okay.
Yeah.
Good night, Jacob.
See you, Jacob.
Jacob, good night.
Good night, Jacob. Thanks for coming.
You're missing
Enjoyed-
all these
enjoyed
bad
having
jokes. Okay.
What a nice way to fall asleep, though, under the stars.
Oh yeah.
And dreaming of possibilities.
Oh God.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're moving over to the Fly Nebula.
Really?
Help
Yeah.
me! Help me!
Is that by the Spider Nebula?
Help me!
Is there a Webb Nebula?
Oh please, Amanda! No,
I don't know.
no. Oh no, I love it. Don't stop, really.
It could be.
It could be.
I mean,
It could
I don't
be.
know. Are there other insect nebulas? Probably.
Is there a praying mantis nebula?
Don't think so.
No, I've never heard of such.
I'll do 15 seconds at 40,000 on this, just to see if there's any hint of it. I've never looked for this before.
Oh, we must have talked about this before. It must have come up. Is there a Beetle Nebula?
Ooh.
No. There is no Beetle Nebula. Oh, hey, look at that. We got the Fly Nebula.
Oh my gosh.
Here it is, guys, right here. Let me just bring us.
So, okay, so yeah. I'm not familiar with this at all.
Here, you see it?
Oh, wow.
Very clear.
They all look like flies to me. They're all just little white dots unless they're like... Ooh, good call, Joanna. Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Well, it's not pronounced. It's not spelled that way, Joanna. But that's a good one. Thank you. That's good. I'll give you that. It's Betelgeuse, not Beetlejuice.
Or Betelgeuse. I don't know.
Yeah,
The Beatles there.
Betelgeuse. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, that's good. Well, that must be the Portuguese. That's the Portuguese, yeah.
Hey, Fantasy, how are you? Good to see you.
You went on a marathon and watched a whole bunch of your latest streams.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. I hope you enjoyed them. Got to catch up, you know. Oh, look at that. There it is. That's really pretty.
So I'm very ignorant here. I am not seeing.
You're gonna
fly?
say you're
Yeah,
gonna say
yeah,
like
I'm
like
not
Amanda. She's
seeing
saying,
fly.
she'll say, I don't see a fly.
Yeah.
Well, I
And-
see what you're pointing out, but
Yeah.
I mean, it just looks like.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't.
I could make a
look like
fish
anything,
out
does
of
it?
that, or but a lot of
Yeah. Okay, I see though. Yeah, this is really hard to make out. Why a fly? Maybe because of the two eyeballs.
So show us the two eyeballs. I'm
Right here?
seeing some potential pairs of eyeballs.
Yeah,
Depends on-
these two pairs of eyeballs right here.
Is
Okay,
there
that-
an ant nebula?
Don't believe
I see
so.
what you're saying.
Yeah, see, this is, you can see the fly
Yeah,
with
yeah,
his two
okay.
eyeballs and the wings.
Okay.
There is a constellation
Musca.
called the Pleiades.
Yeah, Musca.
It's Musca down in the southern hemisphere. Southern sky.
Well,
Hey,
Julian
Julian.
said there's an ant nebula. I don't know if that was a guess or if he knew.
I've never heard of an ant nebula.
I don't know. Maybe it was a guess. I don't know.
Oh. Well, you know, you gotta think that there's probably a nebula named after many different animals and insects and creatures, right? Although I know there's no zebra nebula.
Is there a platypus nebula?
There's no platypus nebula.
Yeah. Well. Okay.
Didn't we go looking for a giraffe nebula once?
Well, there's a constellation, Camelopardalis, which is the giraffe.
Yeah. Right.
That was a Trivial Pursuit question.
Really?
Wow.
Wow. All right, well, so we found the Fly Nebula. That's good. I'm going to come back to that at some point in the future.
Do we
Back-
want to
back
see
to the
Groovefield Boris?
What?
Ooh.
What was that?
Do we
What's the
want to
big-
see?
What's the big cluster there, Mark?
It's the pinwheel cluster.
Ooh.
So we're going to check it out, yeah?
Sure.
There's a Monoceros.
Well, that's
There's
the
the
unicorn.
unicorn.
That's a
Yeah,
constellation.
Joanna was asking if there's a unicorn anything. There is.
Yep, there is.
Yeah.
Very good, Amanda.
Ah,
But there's
Very
no
good, Amanda.
thank you. I'm trying.
But there is no candy corn anything, right?
You're absolutely right. There's no candy
Okay.
corn anything, thank heavens.
Okay. All right. I guess we're safe. Yeah.
I mean, all the candy corn ever made was made in 1920. It just keeps getting recycled.
Papa Tom
Life of
said that.
300 years.
Huh?
Papa Tom said there was a Great Pumpkin Nebula. That NASA did a story on it recently. I don't know if that's true or not.
Ah, probably for Halloween.
Yeah, you think?
All right, let me.
And Fantasy wants to know if you consider the Pleiades inside Taurus's constellation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's the shoulder of the bull and of Taurus. Taurus the bull. Yeah, and you gotta.
Because isn't Taurus taking Europa away?
Isn't Taurus
Yes,
taking?
yeah. I was debating mentioning that.
Oh, go for it.
Well,
Story.
it's the old Greek myth. Taurus liked the ladies a lot, and he enticed Europa up onto his back, and he carried her away and had his way with her. And that's supposedly, that's at least one explanation for the Pleiades being on the bull's back like that. It's called the rape of Europa. Not that the bull's raping her, but the bull is carrying her away to entertain her, I guess you would say.
I guess you'd say.
So to speak.
If she was being entertained at all.
Yeah, can we even
I thought it
entertain
was
that
Zeus
possibility?
acting as a bull.
Well, he was, yes. It was.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
sorry, I didn't say yes. It was Zeus.
Oh, well, you said Taurus liked to have his way.
Oh, yeah.
It was Zeus acting
Yes,
as a bull. Yeah.
Zeus was the bull. Zeus turned himself into a bull to try to entice Europa.
Boy, it's just amazing about these absolutely crazy things that they actually believed. You know?
It's pretty amazing.
Well, I
Crazy
mean,
as
that
other
was
religions.
the stories in the sky of our culture.
No, I know.
Once upon a time.
Yeah.
And nowadays, like I said before, Homer Simpson sees cowboys in the sky.
Nobody saw me do it. You can't prove a thing.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, this is pretty.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the pinwheel cluster, Daryl.
Beautiful.
Uh-huh.
Little,
Very nice.
little processing on. Yeah. You can see some far-reaching strands. What's interesting is you see how these stars kind of move in a pattern here. It's almost like they're flowing along a line, and in some cases we only see the after action view. We don't see the nebula from which these were born. It's possible that this was an area along here of dense hydrogen gas that formed more stars more readily, so that's why they appear to be kind of in a linear line here. The universe has a way of making these tendrils of hydrogen. We've seen them with the Veil Nebula. The explosion moves outward, and then because of the different densities at different places, we see that some of the materials pulled away and made into its own little tight tendril. And so these can make shock fronts, and they do make shock fronts along which star formation can take place. So we're seeing the result of that here, but long after the gas has been either used up or blown away by the stellar winds of these young stars, or the cluster has migrated away from the gas. Pretty cool. I just think that the universe is a fascinating place. I never get tired of it. I just get tired. I never get tired of it, though.
So many little neighborhoods, so many corners, so many.
That's right. There's so
possibilities
many
of how,
places to go.
Yeah.
So many places to go. Let's see here. And we're going to go here. This is my all-time favorite cluster. to go to.
Double cluster?
Well, says you. You like the double
No.
cluster? I know you like the
It's
double
okay.
cluster.
Sure. It's a great binocular object.
It
Get
is.
both of them in the field of view.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure what part of the sky you're in. I assume that was a logical choice. A reasonable choice, at any rate.
Yeah. It's actually not the double cluster. It's actually a different one. Then you'll see.
Make a monkey out of me. I can't read your screen.
No, I'm not trying to make a monkey out of anybody. I'm just trying to. There's another double cluster near the double cluster. It's not nearly as entertaining as the double cluster that we know, and we'll see the double cluster we know. But let me first make sure that the dome will see it at all. Yeah, we will.
So this other double cluster just isn't as dramatic, or
Right. We see a little piece of it here. Hold on. Let me.
Okay.
Right. It's over here. And the trouble is we can't see it in one view. It's farther away from each other. But you know we can actually. Yes. The blue Danube is, of course, amazing. Yeah. And now the Fossil Footprint Nebula. I've never seen it.
I don't recall that name. Interesting.
Yeah,
That's good.
it's a H2 region.
what again? Fossil footprint?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And maybe it's a fossil. So we'll see.
Oh, think of that.
And it should be just fine. Okay. And you're right, Daryl. You can only think of the Pan Am Clipper docking with the space station when you hear this music.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see people dancing in big, fancy, flowing dresses. I see a Pan Am Clipper rotating slowly to match the rotation speed of the station.
Uh-huh.
And to think that I hang around with the man who did those special effects, it just floors me.
How do you get past that? How do you get anything accomplished? I mean,
It's really hard sometimes.
yeah.
Especially since there was a rumor that he had some of the models at his studio.
Oh God.
Look at, there's the fossil footprint.
Oh my God.
We have it. We have acquired it.
Oh my God.
That is so cool. I've never seen this before. I like seeing new things. Let me just go back and I'll go back and pull it closer. Oh, wrong way. Okay. A little farther now. We bring it there. Okay. And let's go to 32,000. So we're doing 32,000 ISO and 20 seconds. Here we go.
Mark Righteous Toad has a question of you.
Okay. Righteous, I'm happy to say that if you look in the lower left-hand corner here, I'm sitting here in the warm room because I've managed to, how do I say it? I've remotified my observatory. So I no longer have to be out there to run the telescope anymore. Which is kind of a good thing, you know? It's a good thing. Look at that. Alright, so...
Remotified. That is now officially a word.
It's a
You heard it
made-up
here,
word,
ladies
and
and gentlemen. Yeah, no, it's a word now.
I made it up.
Yeah, remotified. It's good.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have remotified it, and I am happy that I remotified it. Okay, I went to one more shot here. Hey Montana, welcome to the stream. Interesting. You do stuff with fossils. I collect fossils. And as an astronomer, I've often found myself thinking that we often don't pay enough attention to what lies beneath us, as well as what lies above us. We're too busy looking straight out through our windshields. And I find that if we were to spend the amount of time we really need to spend, we would be able to see and find some of the most amazing artifacts. I have an entire collection of fossils I have found myself. I have brachiopod shells, I have other kinds of shells. And again, it depends where you live. You know, I live in Connecticut, so where the inland sea penetrated here, I managed to find clay beds that had fossilized actually. And I literally walked into these clay beds and rock cutouts on the highways here and slid whole trays of fossils out. Don't know how I knew they were there. I just walked up to them and said,
God.
there are fossils here. I know it. I walked in, parked my car on the side of this highway and walked in there, and I pulled out fossil after fossil. I have this beautiful wheat grain fossil from about 65 million years ago. It's mud that carry the imprint of the leaves, and I'm sorry, the very, very fine detail. And it's wheat here in Connecticut. Just beautiful.
I've got, I'm sorry, my inner interviewer thing here has just got to jump in
Yeah.
and ask you, what, so like set the scene. So like are you parked and looking? Are you driving and you pull over? What was the impetus? What was the first, I got to stop and get something? And how did that?
Carol, I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'm driving along the highway, and I see this rock cut, and I think to myself, now I'm heading down to Electric Boat for a meeting, okay? So I'm in business attire, and I say on the way back, I'm going to stop in that gully because I know there's fossils in there. I sensed it. I could tell there's fossils in there. So I come back.
Whoa. So how much time elapses between the time you see it and the time you get back to it?
About 3.5 hours.
Oh my God.
Maybe 3 hours. So I come back, park my car on the side of the road, put on the emergency flashers just because. And it's in the grass off the side of the road. And I get out of the truck and I walk down. And now I realize, okay, that gully's pretty deep. How am I going to get down there?
Okay, time of day, what are we...
Late afternoon.
Okay.
Late afternoon, something like June. So it was warm enough. And I walk down the rocks, I slip and fall, land on my suit pants. Oh well, whatever. I got fossils to get. I walk in there in a suit coat and tie and shoes and now dirty suit pants. And I'm walking and I see what look like stratified layers, just like I'm looking in a cabinet with maps on edge. And I realize this is a treasure trove. I'm sure there are fossils everywhere in this. It's all broken apart. It's all, broken apart at the different layers. And those layers where it breaks is probably indicative of the time that it happened. And so later layers might be slightly different than the other layers, so that's why they break there, that layer. And they don't all cement together. So I reach in just one rock. I grab one slab that was about maybe 8 inches across, and I jog it back and forth. And I start pulling it toward me. Okay? And it comes out after some cajoling. And I look on the face of it, and I'm staring at what has to be, in my opinion, and others now, an imprint of some dinosaur skin. I'm seeing these little tiny bumps that look like what you would get if you plucked a chicken and put clay against it.
Okay, yeah, got it.
I'm getting that, and I'm
Oh
like,
my
wow, this is too regular,
Oh,
you know. And it had an organic curve to it. It was actually a curved piece that was actually shaped just like part of a shoulder or something like that. But it was skin. It was an imprint. So maybe where something had lain, I don't know. But then, when I then went to another, and I put that in my bag, and then I went to another area in the gully. Now I'm all excited. So I'm wiping my muddy hands off on my tie. I mean, I'm just, because it's like these old, thicker ties. I'm just using it like a rag.
all right.
And I reach in now and I pull out another slab, and I see the most amazing thing. I see divots, little divots. And I'm like, wow, this is impressive. Little divots, little tiny holes, not holes, but bumps, dents. I'm like, I can't believe this. I know exactly what this is. And there's, as far as the rock is concerned, the rock was only about 7-8 inches long, 6 inches wide. I have it here. And it's it has all these holes. They're about a quarter to a half inch across, and then they're rounded on the bottom. And I realized this is a Jurassic rainstorm. There was a heavy rain,
Oh my
and
God.
this is the raindrops being preserved in the mud. And that's exactly what it turned out to be.
Oh, that is. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, so I have Jurassic
Oh
rainstorm
my
here. And then I continued to start digging. I started to pull another thing out, another slab that I pulled out. And by this point, it was starting to get dark. And I realized I don't have any kind of light, so I better not get trapped in this gully because I don't really quite remember the way out. So I better get out while I still have light. So I only took out one more slab, and that slab is the one that had this marvelous strand of wheat in it. This one lone strand of wheat. It's like beautiful. And they're all from around the same time period, so we're looking at about 65 million years ago. So at that point, I'm looking at these thinking, my gosh, this is a snapshot of life. Oh, and in that same one with the wheat, down in the corner, there's a couple of other little weird looking nodules. It turns out they're seed pods from some seeds in a tree that dropped the seeds, and then the seeds decayed and left a little cavity in the mud, and that became preserved.
Whoa. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Just amazing stuff, and this
Oh my
whole journey, this whole foray into looking at the Earth's own history is
Yes.
part and parcel to being an astronomer. To understand astronomy, you have to understand the planet. You have to understand where we come from to understand where any other planet could come from. You have to understand how the rocks all fit together, not in terms of the little trays of rocks like I was pulling them out in the gully, but how the geologic history plays a role in what we became, and how the strata, the rock strata, plays an immensely important history in teaching us what it was like here way back then. So like when people see Devil's Tower Monument out in Wyoming, you see this gigantic thing sticking up off the desert. People always ask, wow, how did that thing end up sticking way up in the air like that? Something must have pushed it up there. Is it a volcano? What was it? No, actually, you have to think another way. Look at the surrounding terrain. The surrounding terrain is a lot softer material than the Devil's Tower is. Devil's Tower is a specific type of, now cooled lava. Well, it used to be magma. It was underground, and it became that way. So how did it come up above the ground? Well, it didn't. The ground fell away around it. It was eroded.
Right. Okay, it's a whole different. Yeah. We have to change the entire perspective, the point of view.
Right. When you stand 800 feet at the base of Devil's Tower, as I've done twice in a row in the past couple of years, you're looking at these gigantic blocks, these flutes, these geometric shapes that are specific to the crystalline structure that this particular magma made when it cooled underground. Well, it cracks, it weathers, it falls away. The top of Devil's Tower is far more eroded than the base. That's a big clue, and you see that was exposed first. The oldest gets eroded worst, and the least, the newer material is eroded least. So, looking at Devil's Tower, you can actually see geologic history in the making. And when you realize that you could have been standing 800 feet higher on what was the ground back then, you recognize that a lot of erosion took place, and a lot of years passed. Many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, it took for that erosion to take place. But then again, the Grand Canyon was carved by a little river, which became a mighty river.
Yeah.
And it managed to carve out the Grand Canyon. So erosion is inexorable, but it causes the features we see. And Devil's Tower is very interesting that way. And we have other things like that on the planet. Monument Valley, same thing. Okay, the erosion took place all around Monument, the harder material, leaving those things sticking up. Just incredible. It shows you what was underground at one point, just slightly more eroded. Wow. So it's a little deviation, but you know what? It's not that far of a deviation from talking about our skies, because of the fact that when we talk about our sky, we're talking about stars, and we're talking about places that may have planets like ours around them. That's what we'll find in some of these locations. I don't suspect we'll find any in any clusters per se, because clusters are young, and what that means is that the younger the cluster, the hotter the stars, the more turbulent their early lives. So we might not be able to see a planet in a cluster like this, only because of the fact that it's very likely that these stars and these clusters are so highly irradiated by ultraviolet radiation that I don't think we'll actually ever see them with planets in our lifetimes, for sure. Probably in a few million years, perhaps, as they migrate away. I don't think we have the dome. I'm just wondering why we didn't have anything there initially. I expected to see some stars, and I did not. So I'm wondering if I'm getting dew on the telescope. There was some.
Yeah, or what was the weather forecast?
Well, it was very wet yesterday, so we got a lot of water vapor in the air.
Okay.
I do have a dew cap, heater on the telescope, but you know what? It can be overwhelmed. You pour water in the end, the dew heater's not going to do much.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do 20 seconds at 32,000 and see what we get. Oh, well, that's why I didn't see any stars. I thought we went to the double cluster. And we had not. We stayed here. Okay, well, that explains it. Now I will take us here, because that is exactly where I wanted to go.
Okay.
All right, not there, but... All right, this is where I wanted to go. I wanted to take us to the double cluster. So, now let's go to the double cluster. And now we're moving. That's better.
Ah, look at that.
Oh, you haven't seen anything yet. You haven't seen anything yet. So I open it up now for commentary from Daryl and Amanda. What do you guys want to see? What do you guys want to do? If you want to do anything at all.
I'm just here for the ride.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say you're just here for the riot. I was like, what?
Oh no.
That's what I thought you was gonna say.
I'm going to call it a night here after we look at the double cluster.
Okay. Yeah, we've been going 3 hours. That's long enough, I
Over
think.
3 hours, yeah, not too bad. Not too bad for a Friday night.
No.
Hey, Friday night in the sky.
Yeah, we'll make this the last object we look at. So let's make it a good one. All right, let's do 20 seconds at 10,000, shall we? Wow, 70s disco isn't dead. I want to thank all of you for watching, those of you that are out there checking us out right now. There's 31 of you.
Yeah, we have a great crew here tonight.
Yeah.
Well, my gosh, you
There
know,
we go.
I was just gonna say, what? This is an amazing tour. It is.
There is the double cluster. It's really pretty, and double cluster has these beautiful orange stars. Daryl's fond of these orange stars. You know, he likes to point them out in some of the clusters we look at because they show up almost everywhere. And these are the M-type stars. These are stars that are so faint you can't see a single one with your eye. You have to have a telescope to see any of them, and they number more than any other type of star in the universe. There's more of them than any other.
I think I asked the other night, these red stars, I assume they're foreground objects. They're just in the line of sight of the clusters. The cluster stars will tend to be of similar types and ages.
That's correct. That's right. And which is a very good observation, by the way, because it's an easy one to overlook, too. When people see, wow, this cluster has orange stars in it and all that. You know, yes, visible. Well, the visible cluster shows 2 orange stars here, but the star clusters that is behind it or in front of it are really responsible for these bright blue stars. These stars are foreground objects. And it stands to reason that you'll see orange stars in other clusters and in other locations because, as I said, there's more of these stars than any other type in the universe. The M stars are supreme. And, of course, by default, there's more planets around M stars than any other kind of star. You know, and Amanda knows the stellar classifications that we use.
Yes, I do. Carol, do you remember the mnemonic?
Oh my God! I knew we were gonna do this, and I'm like, okay, no, okay, take it, Amanda. You know, I'll tap dance while you okay.
It was O, B, fine guy, kiss me.
Yeah. The kiss me part I remembered, but I don't remember.
And the guys can say,
okay,
"Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me." So it works either way. It's just to remember the order of the stars.
So, be a fine guy, kiss me. Is that it? Yeah.
That's
okay.
right.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, and so
OBAFGKM.
yeah,
Oh.
and they go from
biggest, bluest, and hottest.
yeah,
To smaller and cooler and redder.
right, and that's for what we call the main sequence stars. This
And
is,
when I say cooler, it's still quite hot.
that is correct. Yeah. So Dave Schmidt asked the question like, what makes them redder? What makes them redder is the fact that they're burning at a lower temperature. They're fusing at a lower temperature, and so their outer layers are cooler. And by Wien's law, which is a law that we use to study the radiation from stars, the color of the star determines its temperature and vice versa. The temperature determines the color. So when you're looking at a temperature of 3,000 Kelvin or so, the star is going to be red. When you're looking at a temperature of 5,000, 6,000 Kelvin, then the star is going to be whitish yellow. Okay. So when you're looking at 30,000 Kelvin, you're looking at a blue star. And notice I'm not saying degrees Kelvin, because there's not degrees in Kelvin. It's actually it's a unit of temperature alone. You don't, there's degrees a different thing. So it's 30,000 Kelvin. And how does that relate? Well, it relates. There's a calculation to calculate how many degrees Fahrenheit Kelvin, any value of Kelvin is. All right. And
So whose law is this again? Can you spell it for us?
yeah, Wien's law is the one that determines the
Okay.
for us when we look at the colors of the stars, we can guess kind of what their temperatures are going to be, right?
And
it's
if I
Wien,
want to Google that, how do I spell it?
Wien.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Kindly.
Sure. And so, because we notice, for instance, that stars, when we look at the stars, they don't actually show in the green. And Daryl and I have mentioned this before, and Amanda and I have talked about it as well. We all have talked about it. The fact is, because when we look at how radiation falls from the stars, how it comes from the stars radiate in something called a black body. And what's that? Well, if you heat something up till it's blue hot, and you let it cool, and you watch the temperatures that come off of it, and you look at the colors coming from it as it cools, you'll never see green. You'll always see blue hot, white hot, okay? You'll see yellow hot, orange hot, red hot. You'll never see green hot. And so that's because when stars are radiating away energy, they're radiating it as black bodies, and we see this in that color range. Yet when we see the spectrum of a star, there's green light in it. It just doesn't radiate in the green light, which is interesting, because you'll say, well, if we're seeing the light, it's radiating in the green. Yes, that's true, but it's overwhelmed by all the other frequencies, because it's not the predominant frequency.
Overwhelmed. So in other words, my totally non-scientific mind says it's a weaker.
Well, actually, no. I mean, red light is much weaker than green light in terms of energy, but it's just that it dominates in the black body spectrum, in the radiation from stars. All right, so that's something it'll take a while to get used to. A few examples might help, but
Yeah, I'm sort of lost. I'm lost and floating. It's a good floating, but I mean,
That's
it's
okay.
like a brand new thought.
yeah, and it will be, because
Yeah.
the
Thank
stars
you.
the stars work a very different way than what anyone is used to, frankly. But, well, folks, you know what? It's that time. It is now 3 hours, 20 minutes, and 24 seconds, and we are going to call the stream tonight because I'm getting tired. I got a big day tomorrow. I've got a lot to do. I'm finishing up a 3D rig for our cameras for the Tesla movie, and I got to get up to Doug's at the studio, which is an hour away. And so I have to get some sleep, and then I have to work on my rig because it's not working quite right. But I will be back on the next clear night, and if tomorrow night's a clear night, well then, darn it all, I'll be here again, and we'll take a look at different things tomorrow night than what we saw tonight. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy being here with all of you. I want to thank Amanda Curran. I want to thank Daryl Mason.
Thank you.
Of course, for being here. These are my two mainstays, and they make SkyTour LiveStream what it is. And now SkyTour Radio, of course, has had Amanda on it for years, literally. And Daryl has joined us, and he is with us on almost every show, I believe, Daryl. Isn't it true?
KJRA shows?
Yeah. Yeah.
Lately, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Lately, gee, it's been about a year now, I think.
I know.
Yeah.
And Daryl adds immeasurably to the SkyTour radio experience, and I want to thank him publicly for that.
No worries.
This isn't just about Mark D'Antonio. This is about the experience. It's about Daryl, Amanda, and Mark, and it's about seeing things in different ways. Daryl's perspective is different from mine. He shows me things. I show him things. It's really interesting learning from each other. Because when you think you've stopped learning, then you have really gone down a bad path. All right? So just remember, folks, when you go out at night, remember SkyTour LiveStream, subscribe, hit the bell if you haven't yet. And remember that when you look up at night, there's so much more up there waiting for you. And SkyTour LiveStream will show it to you. You guys have a good night, and we will see you on the next clear night. Keep looking up, folks.
Except while you're driving.
I love that.
Nah.
Good night. Good night, everybody.